It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, January 29th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you're waking up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump is your president. We have so much to talk about. But right now, we want to hear from you. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. So later in the show, when the RFK Jr. hearings begin, we'll bring portions of those live, the good portions, right? The Republicans fawning all over RFK Jr. Those are okay. I want the spiciness in politics. That's what I'm looking for. So when the Democrats and RFK, dude, what world are we in right now? Which universe did I drop into where the Democrats are giving RFK Jr. a hard time?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. This will be an interesting one today. We'll see how this goes. I'm curious to see how much they push, how much they let go. And I'm also curious to see how much the Republicans acquiesce and just talk about him being a wonderful, fantastic freedom fighter or patriot or whatever the term is we're using today. I don't know. I don't get the emails. I know what we're supposed to call them.
Well, speaking of that, I got emails from Mike Pence's operation yesterday on a list of questions they have sent to senators, and they called RFK Jr. the fly in the ointment of the Trump administration. Does anybody care what they have to say right now? That is the $1 million question. Then, oh my goodness, the executive orders that came out yesterday, 2 million federal employees got an email titled Fork in the Road that detailed out their options, essentially saying, look, we can't guarantee your job. We're pretty much cutting everywhere except for the military with the federal government. But these are the 4 standards we're now going to measure you by. We're implementing, including returning to work, those types of things, and then gave 2 million federal employees of a little more than 3 million total federal employees the option to resign by simply hitting reply and writing resign in the subject line. And they even wrote out the resignation email for these people. So 2/3 of all federal employees were given the option to resign yesterday. That is wild. We'll be covering that. Plus funding freezes. That has Democrats all worked up. Little chicken littles running around going every possible thing and that's ever funded by the federal government has been stopped. Oh, we'll cover that, as well as a ban now coming from Donald Trump and the federal government on transgender surgeries for minors. All of that, plus Buckley Air Force Base, Space Force there, being used for illegal immigration processing. Operation Aurora actually launching from Aurora, Colorado. And then you have to opt in for your Tabor refunds.
Yeah, that's weird.
I just got I got to renew my car registration.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they automatically opt you in for your little
the park pass thing.
The park pass, which for 2 of my cars is a good thing.
Yeah.
For one, is totally worthless. Yeah. It can't even get up there. My little CRV, I wouldn't drive to the mountains. It would never make it.
Yeah.
So we're not going to the parks. But for the other 2, we leave it, but you have to unopt out of a fee for a parks pass, and you Colorado voters have to opt in to get your Tabor refund this year.
That's weird.
If that doesn't scream government wants your money and all of it.
Yeah. And what they're hoping for is people not understanding. That's the thing that makes me upset about this.
Yeah.
Because all of us that have signed up to get, free access to this website or sign up for this email or whatever the hell it is. Most of the time it's, here's a free 1-week offer. And then you have to enter some information. And if you don't check certain boxes, they automatically renew or automatically enroll you after that free trial and then continue to bill you on whatever the term is. And you have to click the box to not make that happen. So the problem I have is asking the taxpayer to take an affirmative action in order to get their own money back. That's just crap.
Yeah. I mean, and you understand what the reason is. The reason to do this is to take as much money from you as possible to hand it to government bureaucrats down there at the state capitol. By the way, was down there yesterday with the great patriots of RMGO, Second Amendment. Derek Wolf was there, Scott Bottoms, Brandy Bradley, Mark Baisley, Ryan Gonzalez, Ryan Armagost. I mean, tons of great Second Amendment patriots working to try to stop the Democrat bill to take away pretty much every gun we own. That's the trajectory we're on. This is now the next step. Anything that has a detachable magazine, which includes the most popular guns out there like Glocks, will now be banned in the state of Colorado. That did pass the Senate committee late last night, but it was a good, strong showing. And boy, oh boy, Bill, were you the subject of everybody's conversation? I can't go anywhere.
So sorry.
Everywhere I go, people want to talk to me about you.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. And I'm sure it's not nice. It's not like, you got to tell that. It's the same thing that sometimes my parents would get from the teachers. It's the same thing.
No, I will tell you this. None of it's mean-spirited. It's all,
which I appreciate.
It's all like, boy, oh boy, did we go through something. And then they kind of coalesce and start to talk to each other. And they're like, this is what my experience with Bill was like. This is what my experience was. And so it's kind of a group therapy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right there.
If these Kyle Clark t-shirts that we're designing go well, then we got to think of something that's a support group that has to deal with me.
Or just have a shirt that says, I survived an interview with Bill Thorpe.
Something. We're going to, okay. So again, if these Kyle Clark t-shirts sell and we do well with them, that's the next shirt. I mean, again, if you guys like these and you buy these, we can make more t-shirts. We can make this somewhat of a regular thing, not like every few weeks or so, but we will pick out items. And I think that's a good idea for the next one. And maybe on this one, we kind of help. We ask the audience for the help of what the name should be and things like that. But we'll do that later on after we get through the first Kyle Clark t-shirts. Then I think if this goes well and you guys show up and buy a lot of them, let's make a, I survived Bill Thorpe, or the something about Bill Thorpe emotional support. I don't know, something. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out.
Emotional support group.
Yes, something like that. Yes, we'll have to. Yes, we're gonna have to.
Oh, but it was so fun to see him.
Oh, that's great.
Even though it's tough, even though Democrats have total control and they're just taking away our constitutional rights and then creating these stupid things like Tabor opt-ins. I tell you, you hang out with conservatives, they're always in good spirits, man.
Yeah,
they're happy people.
They are a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. I was talking over music yesterday. That's what I was doing. I was introducing. Shinedown dropped 2 songs just to go take this show in a totally different direction. They dropped 2 on Friday.
I've never even heard of the band Shinedown.
Yeah, Shinedown. They're so good. The song they dropped on the rock format's probably going to be, God, I know they've got at least 20 #1 songs in a row on the chart. It's got to be 20 plus, 22, 23, somewhere in there. This one's going to hit. But the one you're going to be hearing a lot is 365. That'll be played on Alice and everything else. That's more of an AC-friendly song. Yeah, but they're really good. It's really, really good. So, yeah, I was talking over them. Ozzy Osbourne has a new song that he's dropping. Can't really find it anywhere, but it's with
that guy's still alive.
Oh, God, yeah. And this song sounds fantastic. He's doing it with Billy Morrison. Morrison is a wonderful guitarist. They brought in another guitarist, former Ozzy guitarist on him, and they put a 61-piece orchestra behind them, and they're doing the Gods of Rock and Roll. It's a really, really good song, although it hasn't been, I'm not sure if it's been openly dropped. I know that Ozzy's talked about it on the Boneyard before on his Sirius XM channel, but I'm not sure if the audio's out there. I've heard it, but it's really good. Really good. Yeah, so some stuff to look for, but again, that's where I was. While you were doing the good stuff about fighting for our gun rights, I'm talking over records. Yeah.
Well, we've got a lot to cover today. We'll get to the phone lines here. Let's check in first. News and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. How about the Warp by Thorpe crew? How about that?
Thorpe.
That could be. Although if we do that, if it's worked by Thorpe, then it has to be a guy like laying on a couch sleeping. That has to be the logo.
There you go.
That has to be
I don't have a problem with that.
I like
that. I was kind of using, double entendre, you're an old DJ type, the record's warped,
That is nice. I like
you get us all hot and bothered.
I like that. That could be good. Okay. That could be worked by Thorpe. That's a good one.
About that
and I like the alliteration.
Put it on the list.
Nice alliteration. I like that, man.
Thank you very much. 22 degrees clear in Denver. Expect a high of 46. The 7:10. 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, welcome back to America. Just in case you haven't heard, Trende Aragua, a ringleader who was caught on camera terrorizing residents in Aurora, has been arrested by the DJT administration. Anderson Zambrano Pacheco was wanted in Colorado on kidnapping, burglary, and menacing charges. He was busted in the first immigration raids in New York City in the Bronx early Tuesday morning. Neighbors believe that he had been there since the fall. And guess what? It actually happened, despite what Governor Polis would tell you.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
The adults are back in charge, trying to make the country safer for you and your families. Colorado AG Phil Weiser announced that he'd be joining a lawsuit with other state attorney generals to reverse DJT's plan to freeze federal funds.
In an executive order, President Trump says he's going to overturn this constitutional guarantee. That's not how our system works.
Weiser said the action takes the power of the purse away from Congress and is already causing massive harm in Colorado. After the announcement, a federal judge put Trump's order on hold through at least Monday. The freeze would have taken effect Tuesday afternoon. Weiser warns that a federal funding pause would affect healthcare, university-based research, road construction, public safety, and wildfire assistance. Hey, new White House.
He's wrong about that, by the way.
Yes, he is.
He's absolutely wrong about that. And in fact,
off.
They did a rapid response to this. Trump explicitly laying out that, and if you read the order too, the order has to do with kind of the woke DEI agenda. But here is Stephen Miller yesterday on this funding freeze.
Yes.
So let's just walk through this because obviously there's confusion. Is this pause going to affect Medicaid?
It does not affect any service that the government is required to provide. Does not affect any entitlement. Does not affect any service to citizens. Does not affect any individual benefit, any public assistance program, or anything of that nature.
Okay. So that's
very glad for the chance to explain what's going on here. In fact, I could actually give you some backstory I think you'd find very useful, Jake. So we found after the president had issued a pause on funding to NGOs that were settled illegal immigrants, we found that bureaucrats at HHS were trying to funnel billions more dollars to those resettlement agencies and try to get around the executive order. It became clear that bureaucrats were still trying to funnel unapproved discretionary grants of funds to their pet projects. So OMB, led by Russ Vought, felt it was necessary to protect taxpayer resources to issue clearer guidance establishing for these discretionary grants of funding that are not directed by Congress, that they go through a political approval process at the agency.
Discretionary accounts of funding.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Clarity,
the
facts, the truth. Thank you for that. That was absolutely awesome. Thank you very much, Jeff. And here is new White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt crushing it on Tuesday.
This administration is taking into consideration how hard the American people are working, and their tax dollars actually matter to this administration. You know, just during this pause, DOJ and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. DOJ and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax.
$50 million of your hard-earned money for condoms in Gaza. Unbelievable. DJT cabinet nominee RFK Jr. will be grilled by a Senate committee today. Kennedy has been picked to head HHS. And here's how you do it right here. Billionaire Nicole Shanahan, his running mate early this year, who has seen the light now, vows to fund primary challengers running against specific senators who don't support his confirmation.
This hasn't been widely reported, but in 2020, I cut large checks to Chuck Schumer to help Democrats flip 2 Senate seats in Georgia from red to blue. The 2 candidates I helped elect, Senator Raphael Warnock and Senator John Ossoff. Please know I will be watching your votes very closely. I will make it my personal mission that you lose your seats in the Senate if you vote against the future health of America's children. And more than that, I also want to say to Senators Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Lisa Markowski, Susan Collins, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, Cory Booker, John Fetterman, Bernie Sanders, and Catherine Cortez Masto, this is a bipartisan message, and it comes directly from me. While Bobby may be willing to play nice, I won't. If you vote against him, I will personally fund challengers to primary you in your next election, and I will enlist hundreds of thousands to join me. Big Pharma and Big Ag have exploited us for far too long. It ends now. You're either on the side of transparency and accountability, or you are standing in the way. The choice is yours. Please choose wisely.
Bingo. Tesla investors questioning Elon Musk about his role in the White House and his recent straight arm salute during the inauguration, even though almost every politician has a photo with the same gesture, insinuating it's the sick Heil. My Lord. Desperate communist globalists. Tesla reports fourth quarter earnings today. And really, here we go. This is crazy. Tampon Tim is back trying to pile on again. What a creep.
It was pure hell, and the disappointment and the frustration. And I'm, soul searching. What could we have done to make the case? Because we knew this was coming. We knew that the implications, and they're throwing so much at us that we're fatigued. We spent 3 days, debating, having them trying to debate that President Musk gave a Nazi salute. Of course he did. But that.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah. Man, this guy will not quit. One of the strangest individuals in politics, and that's saying a lot. Brought to you, news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Nuggets at the Knicks tonight at 5:30. Avalanche lose to the Islanders 5-2. It's 25 in Aurora, 19 in Lakewood, 22 in Denver. It is going to be an absolutely beautiful day today. Again, it is Wednesday. Jeff and Bill continue.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
It's almost like it sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit.
I'm so
It
sorry.
does.
I wish I could do something, but
Sounds
I
like
can't.
Dana Carvey.
You know what? Candace, yeah, it does. Candace Owens brought up a good point. I mean, to get the camera all set, punch the button, make sure
Three different
you're
camera
in frame.
angles, I think.
Right. I mean, you got to be really good, man, when you're crying and everything to make sure you're on camera. Oh, wow. That was just embarrassing. What a joke, but no surprise. Blake Olson News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Increasing high and mid-level cloudiness today as a storm system is developing and going across New Mexico and southern Colorado. Expect partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the 40s, thickening clouds tonight, snow showers possible after midnight, especially south and east of Denver, lows mid-20s. Could see a little bit of light snow Thursday, maybe some light accumulations, highs 30s and 40s, 20s Thursday night and clearing, dry and mild for Friday and the weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right. Yesterday, this was an email sent to 2 million federal employees. There's like a little over 3 million. So you're looking at like 2/3 of the entire federal workforce. Okay. Deferred resignation email to federal employees. It was titled Fork in the Road. By the way, that's the same subject line in the email that Elon Musk sent to Twitter employees when he removed like 80% of them. During the first week of his administration, President Trump issued a number of directives concerning the federal workforce. Among those directives, the president required that employees return to in-person work, restored accountability for employees who have policymaking authority, restored accountability for senior career executives, and reformed the federal hiring process to focus on merit. As a result of the above orders, the reform of the federal workforce will be significant. The reformed federal workforce will be built around 4 pillars. 1, you got to get back in the office. 2, a performance culture. 3, more streamlined and flexible workforce. And 4, enhanced standards of conduct. Each of the pillars outlined above will be pursued in accordance with applicable law, consistent with your agency's policies, and to the extent permitted under relevant collective bargaining agreements. If you choose to remain in your current position, we thank you for your renewed focus on serving the American people to the best of your abilities and look forward to working together as part of an improved federal workforce. At this time, we cannot give you full assurance regarding the certainty of your position or agency, but should your position be eliminated, you will be treated with dignity and will be afforded the protections in place for such positions. If you choose not to continue in your current role in the federal workforce, we thank you for your service to your country, and you will be provided with a dignified, fair departure from the federal government utilizing a deferred resignation program. This program begins effective January 28th and is available to all federal employees until February 6th. If you resign under this program, you will retain all pay and benefits regardless of your daily workload and will be exempted from all applicable in-person work requirements until September 30th, 2025, or earlier if you choose to accelerate your resignation for any reason. All you have to do upon review of this resignation letter is reply to this email from your government account. A reply from this account other than your gov or military account will not be accepted. You just need to type the word resign into the body of this email and hit send. And they have drafted a deferred resignation letter that you essentially agreed to. So you get to resign essentially immediately, from my reading of this, all the way till September 30th. Not bad. Deferred resignation is available to all full-time federal employees except military personnel of the armed forces, employees of the U.S. Postal Service, those in positions related to immigration enforcement and national security, and those in any other position specifically excluded by your employing agency. So 2 million. This is wild. Now, I haven't heard numbers on how many have accepted this. Bill, you got thoughts on what do you think
weird.
The numbers will be?
I have no idea. It's weird, though, because why wouldn't they target low performing individuals, people that are duplicating work, things like that? And the reason why is the self-selection.
Yeah,
those individuals that are high achievers and can easily get to another option can go. Why would you cull them from the group? I thought this was about waste and inefficiency. Why wouldn't you target those that are wasteful and inefficient? Because I submit the people that are most likely to stay are the wasteful and inefficient ones, because they're already not very good at their job. What else are they going to do? So, okay, fine, I'll slip my body back into the office and I'll do the stuff half-assed like I've done so long because the checks keep clearing. Now, again, that job may not stick around once they evaluate it. But the thing for me is this blanket, fire you all, and then we'll figure it out. That's a weird thing, especially the self-selection.
Do you think it's a fire them all? And
yeah, it's the idea of that it's just a blanket. Yeah. we're just going to blanket cover everybody, and then we'll figure out what we've got left, and then we'll put it back together. And that did not work out so well for Elon. I mean, Elon went in and fired a whole bunch of departments, then had to hire them back later because he figured, oh, yeah, I kind of need them. Some of them didn't come back because they already had jobs. And that's, I think, the danger here. Rather than targeting the waste and inefficiency, we're just like, let anybody go. And again, those that have other profitable options are going to be the first ones to go. You are going to lose. Probably, my idea is you're going to lose, and which is my opinion. I may be wrong. You're going to lose the most talented ones first. And we could go to things like, you can look at the Denver Broncos. You can look at the Nuggets. You could, no, the Rockies are a bad idea because they suck. The Avalanche. The Avalanche just recently traded one of their best scorers because he was the person that had the value. That's who they had to trade. They couldn't trade the scrubs, the guys that are bench warmers, the guys that are barely getting on the ice. They have no value to trade. The valuable assets are those up top. Those are the assets that other people wanted. If you're good at your job in the government and you've shown an ability to do it, you have value. There may be other companies out there that will take your skill and talent. That's what worries me. I don't see this as trying to get rid of the people that are the wasteful workers, because in this scenario, I feel those are the ones that are most likely going to continue, because it'd be very difficult for them to get another job at this pay scale with this type of seniority. So you're more likely to keep the ones that you don't really want. I don't understand why someone that's supposed to be this business expert, why is this the best solution?
So I see it differently, as you can imagine. Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah.
All right. Our federal government, wildly bloated. I mean, jobs that we don't need people to be doing. So much money going out to these agencies and entities. And I love when Rand Paul goes down to the floor of the Senate and just explains another stupid government program that we're spending taxpayer dollars on. I am thrilled with this. It sends the right message that, one, we're changing everything. Okay. If you think your job is safe, you think you just get to show up and collect money from taxpayers on a regular basis, and you're not going to be judged on merit, you're not going to be judged on deliverables, and you're just kind of hanging around the office, they're going to notice. Okay. I thought this was a very fair, in fact, probably overly generous from what I would have offered folks. The federal government is a beast that has to be starved. It's the only way to deal with it. So when you combine this with the cutting that took place yesterday, the freezing that took place, the review of federal funding, of what DOGE is doing, the mandate upon Congress to try to get some of the spending in order, and then the message sent to federal employees that you have a very generous way out right now, that is the right type of message that I think the American people want to send to a bloated federal government that's spending way too much money.
One question.
And I appreciate it. Go ahead.
One question. Who do you think is going to be most likely to take the parachute exit? Who would you guess?
Somebody that is worried that they're about to be exposed.
Exposed?
Yeah. Exposed for not showing up, exposed for not really delivering much. That's just kind of lying around. I think they go, whoa, I can get out pretty good right now. And for the next 8 months, look for a new job.
Yeah. But are we certain that the Trump administration is going to be able to go in and weed out those non-performers? Because I still say it's the high performers. Why, if the high performers have another option, why wouldn't you take free 8 months salary and go somewhere else? Why wouldn't you look right now in the next 2 months and go take the free 6 months salary? Why wouldn't you, if you're a higher performer and you had other options? For me, it's the person that has other options that will be leaving. The person that does not have any other options.
I don't think I've ever in my life met a high performing bureaucrat.
Okay.
I'd be happy to be wrong on this. Maybe there's these great high-performing bureaucrats out there that are doing great work. Believe me, feel free to give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. By the way, if you resigned yesterday or you're planning to resign in light of this, I would love to hear. I think Bill and I have an interesting conversation going on here. What kind of employee were you? Are you the high performing that's like, whoa, my job isn't guaranteed. I have an 8-month runway to try to find another job, and I don't have to worry about all this federal government fighting back and forth, all that stuff. Yeah, that's Bill's perspective. My perspective is that probably the low performing employees within the federal government are going, I'm going to be analyzed in a way I've never in my career. I'm getting out of here. Where's it fall? Maybe it's a combination of both. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Let's go to the phone lines. Joan, Lakewood. Good morning, Joan. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning. I've laughed so hard. I love Blake. Blake is wonderful. So the one story that came out about 80 million condoms, my husband, I said to him, 80 million condoms. And he said, were they Trojans? And I'm saying, okay, there's a comment. And then we were talking about how I have a friend and she's in the photography business. And the last 10 days, her business is picked up with headshots of federal employees. And so when you want to know which people I think are leaving, I'm going to tell you it's going to be the younger, last hired, first laid off people. And some of them will be good people and some of them won't be good people. But I'm excited because here's the thing. We've been told that we have to have people that are coming in from India and stuff because we don't have the workers. And some of these people I think will probably be high quality, and they'll probably go out into the workforce, and we won't have to be hiring from India. We can hire Americans.
Well, and Joan, to your point, look, this is a state government thing, not a federal government thing, that for my example, but you have the lieutenant governor of Colorado who's collecting a check for being lieutenant governor, as well as collecting a check for being the czar of the Office of Saving People Money. Like, it's that type of stupidity in government that drives me up the wall. I want to know how much of stuff like that is happening within our federal government. And look, I could be wrong. People are pointing it out here, high functioning government bureaucrats delivering a lot of good things for the people. Maybe they exist, but my guess is there's plenty of people in a 3 million person workforce that are barely getting by. I heard stories when I was in DC of folks who really only do 3-4 days worth of work. They never show up in the office. Those people have got to go. I think this sends an incredibly, from my perspective, too generous of a message to them.
Aren't you talking about the House?
Yeah.
Isn't the House members in government? They only show up 3 days a week. So we're talking about efficient and everything else. They do 3 days of work a week.
Yeah, let's cut their salary. I'd be all for cutting their salaries.
But that's fine, and we don't do anything with them. It's weird because they're looked at as efficient and looked at as. But okay, 3 days. Okay.
There was another thing that I heard this week. A coworker's wife is someone who has placement of immigrants, doing the navigation center stuff, and her grant got frozen, and she is just in tears. She can't believe this has happened to her, and she didn't understand that a grant was taxpayer money, and I just think that there's a real disconnect between fiscally sound people and the rest of the world. And I accredit it to girl math. I don't even think it's girl math. I think it's zero math. I think the fact that we have people that are coming out of our education systems with no sense of math whatsoever do not understand that if you're using urban renewal money, that is not free money. That is taxpayer money.
Joan, you're exactly right. Sure appreciate the call this morning. Thank you so much. Joan's line will be open 303-696-1971. We'll get to these phone calls and text. Lots of text messages coming in. 8913. You're way overestimating the amount of high-performing employees. 8913. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. President Trump sending an email to 2 million federal employees. By the way, there's just a little over 3 million. This isn't the peak of federal employment either. That was in the 90s when we had 3.4. We're just a little over 3 million federal employees right now. But he offered 2 million federal employees the option to resign. All they had to do was respond in an email to resign if they wanted to keep their jobs. He said, great. We're focused now on getting back in the office, a performance culture, more streamlined and flexible workforce, and enhanced standards of conduct. So we'll have to see how many take advantage of that. Some, Jay from Louisville texting in, saying that this stuff is wild and idiotic and disrespectful to government employees. Others saying that this is great. This is exactly what needs to be done. And, this is setting a new culture, new standard. Where do you fall along the lines? Let's go to Jim Sterling. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
Good morning to you guys. Bill, have you ever started a business and had to fire people from your own personal company? Your own personal company. Have you ever started a business and ran one?
I have never started a business nor ran one, but I have been in charge of firing people before. I've also been fired. I've been in companies that have gone through these type of things. No. So please tell me what the relevance is to that.
You've never started your own business.
Sir,
you don't understand corporate America.
No, Jim, that's untrue. That's not true. How can you? That's not true that I don't understand corporate America because I don't start my own business. If someone started a coffee shop right now in Denver, does that mean they understand corporate America? No. I have worked in corporate America. I have fired people in corporate America. I've been fired by corporate America. I've been a manager in corporate America. I have
you ever
experience.
Been self-employed?
I have been. Yes, I have been a self-contractor on a couple of occasions. Yes, sir.
No, self-employed.
Yes, self-employed.
What business did you start?
I did voiceovers, contract work. That is considered self-employment. Because I cover all the costs, I don't have any insurance, I don't have any, I'm not employed by that company. That company drives, other than giving me a check, that company has no other benefit nor tie to me. And when I file as my taxes, that portion of it I have to file under the self-employment act.
I understand. I'm a business owner. So I want to know, it takes a business owner, when you have to get rid of somebody that's not doing their job, were you ever in a position where you had to fire somebody?
I already answered that question. Continue. And the answer is yes. I answered that twice already. I've outlined that twice.
So that's what Trump's doing. He's getting rid of bad employees.
Is he? How do we know? No, Jim, how do we know? He's just asking every employee.
Look at their record.
No, Jim.
Look at their record.
Wait, Jim, he's not looking at their record. He's offering No, he isn't, sir. With respect, Jim, I like you a lot. He's not looking at their record. What he's done is he's taken a pool of people and said, if any of you want to go, you can leave. We have a text message from a former teacher here on the board saying the district does this all the time to cut back on salaries. And you know who leaves? The good ones. The best teachers that have the most options are always the one to go. When I've been involved in corporate buyouts like this, the best people are always the one that can go first because they have the most options. The low performers in the buyout situation, in my experience and only my experience in corporation and corporate America, are those left behind, the lower performers, because they have fewer options. I'm not saying that Trump should not be culling the federal employee list. What I'm saying is this may be one of the dumbest ways to do it because it allows the option for the best, highest employees to go first. Because he has not evaluated them. He hasn't.
Jim, great call. Sure appreciate it. Thanks for the questions. We'll continue this debate. And believe me, this is the only show in Denver where this debate's going to take place. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. Coming up, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Time for a moment of levity with You Choose the News.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we do silly things with very valuable airtime. It's what we call You Choose the News. It's America's favorite fake radio news game show. I've spent moments this morning with these stories here, trying to find ridiculous stories to share with you about as humans, giving them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show, because nobody in charge has any idea that we are being this irresponsible. Yes, this is what we do when we are left unsupervised. Alrighty, Blake Olson is going to be joining us from the newsroom. Jeff Hunt is in the studio. And gentlemen, here are your headlines today. Headline number 1, this could have been an email. Headline number 2, the future of sports. Headline number 3, immersive museum experience. And headline number 4, parolee not allowed to have any fun.
In light of the email sent to all federal employees yesterday, this could have been an email.
Yeah, this could have been an email. We are going to the land down under, what used to be a former penal colony that we now call Australia. Athletics Australia has announced they are doing some rebranding. Now they're going to provide a bold new identity to capitalize on a golden era ahead. Now, they changed a 36-year-old logo and name of the organization. They unveiled their new logo and name just yesterday. Yes, Athletics Australia, after much focus groups, much time, much effort, is now becoming Australian Athletics. Yes,
very creative.
We've gone from Athletics Australia to Australian Athletics.
And we wonder
in
about
order to
these
be
bureaucrats.
bold and to have a new identity and to capitalize and go, I have no idea.
They're dyslexic.
Yeah, they're like, this rebrand isn't just a new look. It's about reimagining what athletics could be in Australia. No, you switched 2 words. That's all you did. You switched 2 words, and you're like, nah, that's good. I just want to know who got the consulting contract. We could have done that.
Yes.
The 3 of us could have taken that check, 30-second email. What are you going to do? I always switch the words. Oh, and then drop the S. Oh, good. Okay, done. Okay, now we wait 3 months and tell them we had to work really hard. Okay, good idea. Email this. That's all it could have been. That's it.
Great point.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. Alrighty. That's why I'm not opposed to firing some of the federal workers. I'm just questioning which ones we're choosing. Okay, Mr. Olson, Blake Olson in the newsroom, sir. The future of sports, immersive museum experience, or parolee not allowed to have any fun?
Let's go with the future of sports.
The future of sports. Here we're traveling to Oklahoma City. Lawmakers have recently introduced a bill, and we're going to discuss this simply so that I can say this name over and over again. Parents, if you wish to, we're talking about a sport. We're talking about something that is illegal. But if you are worried about kids and their treacherous little ears, I'm going to give you a moment to turn the station. Okay, that's enough. Yes, we are talking about cockfighting because right now they want to change the penalty for cockfighting. I just want to say this over and over again. In Oklahoma, they want to go from a felony down to a misdemeanor and also involve robots. Yes, they want to say that cockfighting is illegal if the rooster, I wanted to say it, but I didn't. If the rooster is fighting a robot, which is very strange. I don't understand why the robots, it's like, well, if one of them was a robot, then it's absolutely okay. What? I don't understand. I still think that eventually this is where our sports are going to go. We're going to go to just robots because, that way, yeah, it's easier to repair them.
Hurt.
Yeah. And they don't argue. They don't ask for extra time off. They don't have a union. So, yeah, we're going to go to robot sports. But yes, I just wanted to say the word over and over again. That's just the whole purpose there. All righty.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
I know. It's on you, not me. You're the one saying the naughty things.
No, wait a minute. What are you talking about?
Wait, hang on a sec here. All right. Jeff Hunt, your choice, sir. Immersive museum experience or parolee not allowed to have any fun?
Immersive museum experience.
Yeah, an immersive museum experience in Pennsylvania. The Johnstown Flood Museum recently became an immersive experience during the cold weather because they developed a water leak and the place flooded. Yes, nothing of historic significance was absolutely affected, but luckily there was someone there. Nikki Bosley was working late at night in the archives when she discovered the leak. She's the one that was able to save all the valuable things when the Flood Museum started to flood during a cold snap. A valve failure on the 3rd floor caused the flooding, and it resulted in water pouring through the walls, resulting in damage to carpets, drywalls, and ceiling, just like when you have a flood. Great Johnstown flood was May 31st, 1889. Over 2,000 people died. All righty, back to you, sir.
All right. In the 7 o'clock hour, under the Trump administration, The United States will no longer fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the transing of kids. Do you agree with this? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader. We are 710 KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're heading to work in the greatest country in history, and Donald Trump's your president. And we're kicking it off with a whole hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to go live to the RFK committee hearing that's taking place today in the U.S. Senate to possibly confirm him to become the new Secretary of Health and Human Services. It's going to be a feisty one, because of the Democrats. How I ended up where Kennedys are on the other side of the This is where,
Yeah.
I mean, what an interesting coalition Donald Trump has built.
This is a really weird timeline. 5 years ago, you would have said, "Hey, I got a bet for you at Vegas."
Right.
The Democrats are going to be pounding RFK Jr. because he's going to be named in a Republican administration. You're
right.
like,
Led by Donald Trump.
Exactly. You're like, you're drunk. Yes, exactly.
So we'll be going to that. But after news and comment with Blake Olson yesterday, Donald Trump signing an executive order that says the United States of America will no longer fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the, quote, transing of a child from one sex to another. It was titled Protecting Children from Chemical and Surgical Mutilation. Where do you fall along the lines on this? Would love to hear from you. Is this an effort to step in and protect children from abuse of their parents as they permanently mutilate these children with this transgender ideology while they're minors? Or is this overbearing government stepping in that could result in kids not being able to live their true selves and being able to pursue their true gender identity? Where do you fall along these lines? Would love to hear from you. 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. 22 degrees, clear in Denver, expecting a high of 46. Sunshine and blue skies today. Another great January day up and down the Front Range. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Trump cabinet nominee RFK Jr. will be grilled by a Senate committee today, as Jeff and Billy were just discussing. Kennedy has been picked to head the Department of Health and Human Services. He'll appear before the Senate Committee on Finance, where he will be asked about his plans for Medicare and Medicaid. His former running mate, Nicole Shanahan, exposes the swamp and warns them to do the right thing.
And more than that, I also want to say to Senators Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, Cory Booker, John Fetterman, Bernie Sanders, and Catherine Cortez Masto, this is a bipartisan message, and it comes directly from me. While Bobby may be willing to play nice, I won't. If you vote against him, I will personally fund challengers to primary you in your next election, and I will enlist hundreds of thousands to join me. Big Pharma and Big Ag have exploited us for far too long. It ends now. You're either on the side of transparency and accountability, or you are standing in the way. The choice is yours. Please choose wisely.
Time to get your popcorn again. Trende Aragua ringleader, who was caught on camera terrorizing residents in Aurora, has been arrested by the DJT administration. Anderson Zambrano Pacheco was wanted in Colorado on kidnapping, burglary, and menacing charges, was busted in the first immigration raids in New York City and the Bronx early Tuesday morning. Neighbors believe he had been there since the fall and said that he looked angry when they took him out in cuffs. Governor Polis probably thinks they were imagining things. Just my imagination. Investors believe the central bank will leave interest rates unchanged when the Fed's meeting concludes today. DJT asking Elon Musk to go get 2 astronauts who have been stuck on the International Space Station. The astronauts were part of a Boeing mission to the ISS in June that was supposed to last around 8 to 10 days. A new executive order from 47 will ban access to gender-affirming health care for people under 19. Trump signed an order on Tuesday that says the U.S. will no longer fund, support, promote, assist, or support anyone younger than 19 from transitioning. New White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt was a superstar Tuesday, exposed that $50 million of our taxpayer money was headed to Gaza to fund condoms And believe it or not, honestly, they use these things for bombs, if you can believe that. But she talked about a lot of things, and she understands new media.
We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room. We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. And you can apply now on our new website, whitehouse.gov/new media.
I've applied for that.
Yeah, have you? That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
good.
So we'll see.
Oh,
I don't know
you
what
should
it
be in
means,
there.
but it'd be fun to
Doesn't
be in there.
matter.
I'm not.
Heck
I'm
yeah.
not moving back to Washington D.C. at this point in my life. But
just pop in there.
But pop in. That's of course.
I will believe that they are taking more and more questions from new media when they call on. Let's go to Rusky Big D's Nuts 124 on Twitter. Once they go to that, then I'll believe they're doing new media. Until then, I'm still a little skeptical. I'm just saying I want to see who's asking the questions. Just saying.
You know
just
what,
saying.
though? I think they would answer the question.
I think they would. I just want to see.
do.
Just saying.
I do.
You know what
I'm not
this
thinking it's a bad
is.
idea.
You know
Just
what
guessing.
this is right now. Okay, this is just a big troll of all the I'm an ABC News White House correspondent.
Yeah, professional experts.
Yeah,
No doubt.
This is all a big troll of them. We're going to move you guys to the back now. And after the way you've treated Trump and
I love it.
conservatives, and frankly, it's fantastic.
Yes. Once again, we are promoting people based on merit. Oh, no, sorry. Sorry about that. That's not what we're doing here. That's okay. But again, fair enough. We can do it. I'm curious to see what happens. I'm real curious. I'm not going to judge one way or the other beforehand.
It's going to be fun.
Dan Rather is angry somewhere in a corner.
Oh, goodness. Don't get me started.
That was, by
I
the
worked
way,
on this for a long time as a
that was the
journalist.
moment the media died for me. Was when Dan Rather did the whole George W. Bush. I've got this
no
document
doubt.
and ran out there with it. and
No
all that stuff.
question.
That was the moment it died for me.
So Ted Baxter. I love Ted Knight and Ted Baxter. I got to play that later just to remind us all what a fraud it is. Speaking of that, Stephen Miller educates Jake Tapper last night.
The illegal aliens that Joe Biden brought into our country are not full stop doing farm work. They are not. The illegal aliens he brought in from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, they are not doing farm work. They're in our cities collecting welfare. As for the farmers, there is a guest worker program that President Trump supports. Over time as well, we will transition into automation, so we'll never have to have this conversation ever again. But there's no universe in which this nation is going to allow the previous president to flood our nation with millions and millions of illegal aliens who just get to stay here. And we are especially not going to allow a subset of those illegal aliens to rape and murder our citizens. So we are going to unapologetically enforce our immigration laws. And as I'm sure you will celebrate, we are going to unleash the power and might of the U.S. government to eradicate the presence of transnational threats on our soil.
Okay, Jake, you can leave the principal's office now. A U.S. Air Force pilot is safe after his F-35 fighter jet crashed in central Alaska. This video is incredible. Officials at the Air Force Base near Fairbanks say the pilot declared an emergency training during a training flight and ejected from the plane just before it crashed. The jet crashes. You see the explosion. Incredible. If you didn't read the text, you're thinking, oh my God, there's no way he survived that. Of course, it blows up. And then right after the explosion, you see the parachute coming down just seconds later. Wow. That was unbelievable. Nuggets at the Knicks tonight at 5:30. The Avalanche lose to the Islanders 5-2. 20 in Glendale, 19 in Broomfield, 22 in Denver. It is Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue.
I pledge to listen to experts.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Increasing high and mid-level cloudiness today as a storm system is developing and going across New Mexico and southern Colorado. Expect partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the 40s, thickening clouds tonight, snow showers possible after midnight, especially south and east of Denver, lows mid-20s. Could see a little bit of light snow Thursday, maybe some light accumulations, highs 30s and 40s, 20s Thursday night and clearing, dry and mild for Friday and the weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby have ordered across the country today, medical professionals are maiming and sterilizing a growing number of impressionable children under the radical and false claim that adults can change a child's sex through a series of irreversible medical interventions. This dangerous trend will be a stain on our nation's history, and it must end. Countless children soon regret that they have been mutilated and begin to grasp the horrifying tragedy that they will never be able to conceive children on their own or nurture their children through breastfeeding. Moreover, these vulnerable youth's medical bills may rise throughout their lifetimes as they are often trapped with lifelong medical complications, a losing war with their own bodies, and tragically, sterilization. Accordingly, it is the policy of the United States that it will not fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the so-called transition of a child from one sex to another, and it will rigorously enforce all laws that prohibit or limit these destructive and life-altering procedures. Now, takes on this are across the spectrum. Wall Street Journal saying Trump signs executive order to restrict medical treatments for transgender children and teens. The New York Times saying Trump signs order restricting gender-affirming treatments for minors. I'm with Trump on this. This is protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation. Where do you fall along the lines on this? Join the phone conversation at 303-696-1971 or text us directly on the Dan Caplis Law text line. It comes right in here to the studio, 720-819-5115. Bill, to you. What do you think of this?
Yeah. I think it's a bit of an overreach, but I don't necessarily fight it that much. I do agree with the surgery side of it, and I do agree with some, not all, but some of the medications. I do feel like some of the medications and surgeries are overprescribed. I feel that the kids at that age don't necessarily know who they are per se, and that just goes through personality and other stuff, and it worries me to allow them to make a change at that age. And one of the examples I would give, and this is a really, really bad analogy, it's an awful analogy, but I'm going to do it anyway. Tattoos. We don't allow kids at that age to make tattoos, partly because of the medical risk that is there, which would be, again, along with the surgery, but also because it is permanent on the body. And we know that kids change their favorite cartoon, their favorite superhero, the job they want to be, and that's part of growing up. And that's what worries me, is allowing a child to do something to them that can impact their life later on. And I'm not saying when they grow up that they're going to decide they aren't trans. I'm just saying that the impact of that surgery early on, maybe they wouldn't want to have all that surgery. Maybe they're going to be problems with that surgery. We've talked kind of on the side a little bit about, and this kind of relates to the show, a little bit about hernia surgery. And I have a longtime radio friend that had hernia surgery 15, 16 years ago, and they had put that medical mesh inside of him. Well, come to find out that medical mesh actually can cause some real serious problems if it doesn't necessarily heal right. It doesn't dissolve, and it can sit there and create real problems inside the body. And they had to go back in and take it out because it was creating a routine infection that was coming back every few months inside of him. So he was always feeling sick. And that was based on the medical technology then. So that's what I'm worried about, is that this is a push. And I don't think we should be doing this. I don't think any plastic surgery, other than stuff like, cleft palate, stuff like that, is necessary for children. The problem I have with this is that I believe it is how our society deals with the transgender community that tells these children to get the medical surgery and to get the prescriptions in the first place. And that's not the affirmative care. It's the negative connotations. that if you had a child that shows up at a elementary school, at a middle school, at a high school, and says they're transgender, that without any other thing impacting them, without any other medical care, is not going to be accepted. The social group that we have, the way that our society deals with it, doesn't accept someone that says I'm transgender, makes fun of them, insults them, accuses them of being groomers, says it's a mental illness. I mean, you've seen the text messages, you've heard the phone calls that we get. And that is just the base reaction to someone that says they're transgender. So what do you think these people that already feel out of place, that feel like they don't belong, my argument is, because of how we deal with it as a society, we are encouraging these kids to get this surgery and to have these things done with them so that they look more, and I'm using air quotes here, normal. If you don't look, air quotes, like a woman or a man, I'm going to make fun of you. I'm going to insult you. I'm going to do this, because that's along what kids do. Kids will find weakness in others because they feel weakness in themselves. The person that is making fun of you, the person that's bullying with you, is the one that is broken the most, because they need to externalize those feelings. They need to make sure that you feel as bad as they do on the inside. Those bullies have a problem. It's not because they actually feel dominant. It's because they feel like they're the weakest ones around, and they want to make sure that nobody knows how weak they are. So the only way to prevent that is to go out and to show how dominant you are with everybody else. Kids do that. And adults do that. And that's part of the problem.
And I think bullying is terrible by all in any aspect. Bullying is terrible. And we know that takes place in schools. Question, do you think that children would embrace transgenderism if it wasn't for their parents?
Yeah.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because think about little kids. Little kids think you can grow up to be a superhero. Little kids think that
and they grow out of it.
But I'm just saying that we're talking about a belief system. The people that more times than not are the least prejudicial are children. They are taught prejudice through how their parents act, groups that they don't like. Now, there can be individual experiences that, okay, when I was younger, a person that had this color hair and wore this coat was mean to me and took my toy on the playground. So now I'm suspect of that type of person. That can be, but the early on, kids don't see any sort of difference that way. Now, they're little tiny monsters that are fairly feral at times, but they don't hold those prejudices are taught by society and by parents. And so I don't think it is the parents telling these kids to be transgender, but it is, as we grow up, we're told, well, you're not acting like a boy, you're not acting like a girl, you're not dressed in the right way, you're playing with the wrong toys, you can't possibly like that cartoon character. Why would you possibly do that? Because you're not being so and so. And our society reinforces those gender roles all the time, and our society comes down on, makes fun of, and holds up for mockery many times individuals that are transgender. It's happened on the show, happened in the text messages, and even in recent interviews we've had. So
I see a difference in between, like, okay, wanting to dress up, and little boys wanting to dress up as girls when they're younger, or girls wanting to be more tomboyish. But the idea that you can change your gender and that your gender is non-immutable, immutable being unchanging over time. So the idea that you can just move in between 70 different genders and you should embrace that. That is totally different in my perspective. I think that the kids that are embracing that type of mentality of essentially changing their entire gender and changing the way you dress, and then going through surgeries and carving up parts of your body, I think that is pushed on them by their parents. I think it's a worldview that is destructive, and it is harming kids. And I think it goes back to gender dysphoria. I think it's a mental health issue. And the right way to deal with it, especially with kids, and we've seen this play out with statistics over and over again, is that if you just let them kind of live through it, they end up, for the most part, moving through it and embracing their God-given gender.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Letting them embrace their path. But as society, we don't allow them to. If that person,
but if
I have a kid in my house that was Spider-Man for 4 years.
I'm not talking about embracing.
No.
I'm talking about working through it.
No,
like not embracing it in the sense of wearing clothes. Boys should not dress as girls, and girls should not dress as boys.
Why
They
not?
shouldn't be using the alternative bathrooms, those types of things. That's not healthy.
But why can't boys dress as girls and girls dress as boys? Because as young kids, you can change who you are over the course of a week. Little girls can change the number of Disney princesses they are. And if the boy puts on the Disney princess dress and decides to be Cinderella for 3 hours and comes back and then he's Batman later, that's the problem.
I think it's harmful and confusing to kids to give them that type of mentality that you can wear a dress to school one day. I think God creates gender, specifically male and female. You can't get through the first 2 books of the Bible without seeing that. And I think it's healthy to help understand that boys are created as boys. You have a certain role and responsibility within society, within family. As men, you have, as women, certain roles and responsibilities within society that are good and healthy. You should embrace those.
If you did not understand the culture of many Middle Eastern countries and the Scottish, would you say they're wearing dresses?
No.
Yeah, you would.
I wouldn't.
The
No.
boys. Look at the guys in Scotland, the kilts. You show up there, and a bunch of guys are running around wearing
Are they wearing those kilts to identify as girls? They're not.
But they're You said boys shouldn't be allowed to wear dresses. Those Scottish men are wearing skirts. By every other interpretation,
But not to identify as girls.
No, but you're talking about what they can't wear.
If you're a boy putting on a dress to identify as a girl, like if you're a boy putting on a dress to be in a comedy play, that's different.
Could it be a drama play?
But
does it
if
matter?
you're trying to identify as a girl, if the role of putting on a dress is, hey, Jimmy, today you can be Jane and wear a dress to school, that's not healthy for kids.
Why not?
Because
what's the damage?
Yeah, sure. It breaks down what are the God-given gender roles and responsibilities.
So only the ones defined in the Bible. So if we ran into a society that reversed those gender roles, still had the definitive male and female, you would say that's against. You would be that entire society
We
is not
understand
okay.
what that society would look like.
That society would have everything that we consider to be male behavior would be done by the females. And everything that we consider to be female behavior would be done by the men, with the exception of childbirth.
Where does that exist?
No, I'm talking about a hypothetical. I'm saying that would be incorrect. You wouldn't allow that to exist. If we run across a society that says that
I don't
to
think
you
it does.
isn't okay.
I don't think it exists because of the way God has created male and female.
But not everybody believes in God.
But it doesn't matter. God
it does.
created. Sure, it does.
Sure, it does.
God
Yes, it
created,
does. Yes, it matters.
God created this world, this universe. He set up male and female with unique and distinct characteristics. And embracing that provides wonderful freedom. When you try to break that down, you end up with the surgical mutilation of children.
So Joan of Arc was transgender or wrong?
Oh, I don't think she was either.
Well, but she went out and did male stuff. She did the stuff that the guys
did. The idea isn't that girls can't do any boy things and boys can't do any girl things.
Pig Hegseth's
but
idea.
What you have here with this transgender movement is that you can move between genders. You can change genders. Joan of Arc wasn't trying to be a man. She was, in that moment, in that circumstance, trying to serve God the very best she could by engaging in warfare. But the idea you have in this transgender movement is the idea that you can move in between genders. That is harmful for people. It is a mental health issue, and it results in mutilation and sterilization of children.
So you think the Mulan movie is dangerous to children?
I haven't seen
hurts.
Mulan. I don't know the movie.
Oh, well, the main character is female, and she pretends to be a man and joins the Chinese army, becomes one of the biggest fighters and best fighters they have, but presenting herself as male the entire time. So that's a danger, right? That
we as a
kids.
Society embrace that on a
kids.
Regular basis. Yeah, absolutely. I would.
But again, a regular basis, we're not talking about everybody. We're talking about a fraction of the population. A fraction that's not regular.
We're saying it's acceptable.
It's a fraction, but it's a fraction of the population that's not regular.
I disagree.
That's a group.
I think this thing's being pushed all throughout our schools.
Pushed?
Yes, I think transgender ideology and the idea you can change your gender and that your gender is fluid is being pushed through comprehensive sex education, as well as on kids that shouldn't even be experiencing this stuff. You've seen teachers over and over again push transgender ideology in their schools.
And I have an issue with that as far as teachers, and some teachers do make mistakes and they shouldn't be pushing it. And I disagree with you blanket saying that they are pushing it. However, I understand that your interpretation might be if they talk about it and expose them to it, that's pushing it. I understand that your definition of pushing may not be what everybody else does. And that's not the definition that I hold as pushing. That's not how I would define it. But according to you, Disney should never have made that movie because it will rot little kids'
I don't know
brains.
the movie. I haven't seen it.
I know, but I told you about what it is. No, I told you what it is.
If you have created a culture that is telling lots of young girls that they should dress up as boys and join the military.
Why are you using the word should?
I don't know what you mean by should. What
Why?
question?
Again, that's an advocacy position. Why can't it be a choice?
Because
could. Why not could or can? Why? Again, you're taking the advocacy.
Right. I'm talking about the broader
it.
culture because
I know,
we
but you're
just
talking
signed,
about pushing it.
We just talked about a executive order that's going down. So you want to take this like one-off film and go this one-off film.
No,
Mulan.
I'm talking about culture.
Was some girl dressed as a boy. I'm trying to talk about a broader cultural movement. Okay.
So
the
am
broader
I.
cultural movement has said you can change your gender. And in fact, parents can permanently sterilize their children through this cultural movement. And Donald Trump is addressing that. And he's doing it the right way, in my perspective.
I'm on your side as far as the surgery, but I disagree with the idea that this is a huge cultural movement in which they're pushing it on. It's about recognition and acceptance. And in fact, this is the same arguments, we've talked about it before, that we heard when dealing with gay people. That gay people, it was a choice, that gay people, it was a mental illness. In fact, it was classified as a mental illness for years and years and years. It was considered a mental illness. And now it's not. So we were wrong at that point about how someone was identifying. And we can and could be wrong here as well. The thing for me is I don't see the negative connotations. I don't see the negative impact. Now, again, I see the negative impact in the medication and the surgery inside of the youth community. That I do believe is wrong. I also believe that when our friend Aaron Lee comes on and talks about a school program in which it was hiding what it actually was, and that those teachers had a specific view and were trying to push, yes, those teachers. Do I see it in the rest of the school district? I haven't seen any information or any supporting information showing that the larger school district made this a policy. It seems to be these teachers doing this, and that happens all the time. Believe me, I'm a Catholic. I know a whole hell of a lot about people involved in the church doing really, really, really bad things to kids. I have my eyes open. I know. It's one of my biggest indictments. It's why I hate Pope Benedict, and he can burn in hell. I would push him into the fires of hell because of what he did to those children allowed to have happen. So I'm not sitting here saying we don't take care of the kids. So I'm not in favor of the surgery. I'm not in favor of the medication. But I argue that if we were more open and accepting of this community, they wouldn't need the surgery. They wouldn't need the medication. Part of the reason is the unacceptance. So the force to look this way is why that is pushed by the parents in some cases and the children in some cases. That's why those choices are made too early in life, and they shouldn't be. Those kids should be allowed to make it after the age of 18, and the parents should come to the kids and support them in whatever way those kids need the support. But tell them you can make that choice because of what the changes your body are going to, and there it's fine. But because we make fun of them, we tell them they have a mental illness, we tell them they can't be this way, they feel like they have to look the other way so that people don't see them.
And Bill, I want you to understand that I appreciate the compassion you have. I really do towards those that are transgender. I see it differently. And what I want is clarity. God has created men and women. And when a culture embraces those unique distinctions, you end up not with restrictions, not with, the culture holding down people. You end up with freedom. You end up with healthy families. You end up with clarity for people. And so I don't make the distinction between a transgender child and a transgender adult. I see them both as suffering from confusion. And the best thing that we can do for them is to provide clarity that God created you as a man or God created you as a woman. These are the distinct and unique giftings that God has given you. Let's try to figure that out. And whether it's kids or adults that are mutilating their body, I see it as a cry for help. I see it as confusion, and I see it as pain. And I think clarity provides compassion in that sense. Where do you fall along the lines here? Believe me, we got text messages everywhere on this.
Good. I'm not seeing them yet. I'm not seeing them. Right.
Jeff, I agree totally with you. To Billy, I agree totally with you.
All right.
So join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. That's 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Donald Trump taking action yesterday to protect children from chemical and surgical mutilation, essentially saying that the federal government will no longer fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the so-called transition of a child from one sex to another. Of course, the New York Times reading it differently. Trump signs order restricting gender-affirming treatments for minors. Boy, oh boy, are the text messages on this one hot today. Where do you fall along the lines? Do you agree that these surgeries shouldn't be implemented on children, inflicted on children? It's a form of child abuse that permanently, in some cases, sterilizes kids, that it that harms them. It's a harmful ideology for kids to embrace. Or is this something that kids need to help finding their true gender identity with? Brandy Bradley texted me during the break, representative, just reminding everybody that, if you guys remember this story too, her son's history teacher, that Da Vinci was gender fluid and that there are trans flags in classrooms everywhere. There's a growing percentage of kids identifying as trans now. So it's not just a few kids.
Couldn't we say that with respect, Representative Brantley? Couldn't we say that when we started to be more open about accepting gay people? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden we talked about, oh my God, where all these gay people come from. Acceptance doesn't mean people are becoming that. That's why I push back so hard on the groomer BS. The idea that, oh, since we now say it's okay, now they're grooming them, they're going to have to turn them into it. Yeah, right. Sure. Again,
I totally disagree with you on that one. I think it absolutely has an impact on kids, especially with the trans kids. You have kids in high school, middle school, high school, going through puberty, going through all those challenges. Yeah. And now you have adults in their lives, whether they're parents or teachers, coming along and saying those challenges you're facing are the result of you being in the wrong body. That is a lie.
How are those kids treated? Universally
terribly
in school.
By their parents and their teachers.
No, in the social settings inside of school, how are those teachers and individuals treated?
Teachers and individuals?
Yes, that are trans. How are they treated? Usually fairly poorly. They're not celebrated.
I agree with you. I mean, in the sense that they shouldn't be treated poorly. I hate the idea of bullying.
I know, but this is the idea. Is you're sitting there going, oh, this is the idea that is completely and totally bogus in this, that somehow transgender is the new, woo, if I'm transgender, I'm celebrated. I have all these advantages now that I'm transgender. My life is so great. I get all of these. The idea that, oh, all these transgenders now have a leg up when they're applying to college. We've heard before, and I don't remember who it was, talked about, not here on the show, talked about the idea that kids are turning transgender so they can get into college faster. Piles and piles and piles of crap. A person that is transgender is more likely to go through suicidal thought and ideation and actually have a plan. Someone that is transgender is more likely to be beat up. Someone that's transgender is more likely to be assaulted. Someone that's transgendered is more likely to be yelled at. I can point to in a Cherry Creek High School, a transgender teacher that was beaten up by students in the hall of the school. Don't come and say that we celebrate the transgenders. They go through incredible pain, and everyone around them tells them, like we are saying here on the show, you're wrong. You're being groomed. You have something wrong with your head. Don't you understand how this society and how this entire world is set up? How dare you come at this way? You need to be shamed. And the kids are choosing that?
Why?
Really?
I don't.
So I disagree. The kids aren't choosing that. They're not choosing the abuse. The people that are saying I'm transgender are understanding they're going to have the abuse. So it's not an advantage. And then we're turning around and saying, oh, they're choosing it. They're choosing to be abused, to be bullied, to be ostracized. So it's not a celebration. Understand what they're going through.
It's bizarre to me when every major corporation in America embraces pride. I mean, everybody changes their logo. There are parades. In fact, the largest parade in Colorado is the Pride Parade.
Yeah.
It's the biggest one.
Why?
So the idea that this is somehow a terrible culture for a trans kid to come out in, that's not true.
Why do but again, Pride parades. Why do those corporations celebrate it? Why do they do this? What's the reason?
I don't know.
Money.
What do you think?
Money.
Money?
Yes. Money. Yes. Why do we
think
see?
It's because it's totally culturally acceptable.
No, money.
If it was a problem,
No.
well, maybe because there's money there, it is because it's culturally acceptable.
No. Well, yeah, it's culturally acceptable. It's culturally acceptable to be gay right now. And that's why you have pride parades and things. And that's why you market to the gay community during that time, because they have money. And you want to show that they're going to come in and buy the stuff at your store.
The gay community?
Yes.
That's why just because of the gay community.
Yeah, in part,
no,
yes.
because it's culturally acceptable in America.
But because the gay community is culturally acceptable. We're not having Trans Pride Month.
But you just talked to me about all this bullying that takes place out there. And the minute you come out, you get jumped in a classroom.
That's trans, not gay. We have people here that call in and text us. We have the groomer. We have the Gays Against Groomers. And they target the trans people, calling them groomers. It's not gay against trans. It's gay against groomers. Yeah, but the gay culture is embraced and it is accepted. And the reason is because of the money. It's because those people spend money. If Target wasn't having people that were gay walking into the store and buying those T-shirts wouldn't be on the rack. They don't make that choice in order to push an agenda. They make the choice because sales.
It is all about pushing an agenda. And you have an entity called the Human Rights Campaign that jumps on these corporations the minute that look, Target walked back his DEI, and Human Rights Campaign jumped right on top of them to try to bully them back into embracing it.
Yeah, but Target pulled those displays from stores in which they were getting pushback because the community didn't want it.
Parents are tired of this
and
stuff.
The people weren't coming in there to buy the shirts. In the areas in which the gay community was coming in to buy the shirts, they kept the stands up. They kept those displays up. It wasn't universal across every Target, and that was bad on Target for not understanding the community in each different store. But they had it there because they can sell it. That's why they made that choice, because they can sell it. It's all money.
All right, text messages all over to this, and we need to get to a break here, but you're welcome to join the conversation because coming up here soon is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Look, my perspective on this is that there is truth revealed in the Bible from a living God, a loving God, and when we sway from that, when we move away from that, whether it's affirming lots of different genders, or the idea is you can change your gender, or Bill, to even your point, bullying people, which is not a Christian value at all, you end up with confusion, you end up with harm, and there's clarity here. And Donald Trump is providing clarity and protecting kids from this type of mutilation that's taking place. That's where I fall along this line. Where do you? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. As you can imagine, our conversation with the text messages. Suzanne saying that I come across the strident, judgmental, and harsh. Billy filled with love. Other ones concerned that we're grooming kids.
Yeah. Again, that's a misnomer. If you think we're grooming kids, call. Please. Would love to have a discussion with you. That is something that I'm very fascinated on, how you come to that conclusion, that you believe that can be done. And before you call in, just make sure you check the calendar and tell me when your choice day was that you decided what your sexual orientation was going to be. Because that's one of the things we're going to discuss. Just saying, make sure you have that ready for you. Also got a text from Mary, who was talking about transgenders being prevalent in all sorts of societies. She did accurately point out in Native American societies, they are revered and given special places inside of the community. So they've been around for a while. And they also didn't have the good book that you and I refer to.
Right,
but they had
which
decided.
is true.
Yeah, but they had decided on the society. And so they created that inside the culture.
I mean, lots of cultures come up with wrong ideas.
No, but
I mean,
but it was
Afghanistan
accepted.
doesn't allow girls to go to school just because a culture allows something.
Yeah, but they say that's because of God.
Well, that's because.
But again, they say that's because of God in their book.
But they're wrong.
But again, because of God, and that was kind of
Right,
that was the thing that you took.
This is like we have lost the ability to debate theologically. Like, because we've separated out our entire educational system from the notion that there is a God, that there is truth, that it is knowable, that it can be debated and should be debated. People are like, well, one God says this, one God says that. Well, I don't care. There is a knowable truth.
Yeah,
don't you agree?
Here's the thing, though. The people that follow another book believe they're right, and they say they don't care either. So it's not a debate. It becomes intractable. And that's unfortunately where Suzanne is going with on this one, is that when you say that because God says so, that I can't examine it, I can't be critical,
No,
and I can't go
that's
through
exactly what we're doing here.
No, you're not.
But no, that's exactly.
No.
But Bill, when you show up and say, well, there's another God that believes this. Okay, let's talk about it. Is that view of God and what that God delivers right and true? Or is the biblical version of who God is and what God delivers for his people right or true? We can debate these.
Yeah. But remember, there's our book that we share also advocates for some things that neither one of us would endorse. So we have to be careful when we do a blanket statement.
That's proper exegesis of the Bible.
But when we sit there and say that it is right and true, it is
infallible. It is perfect.
Yeah, I disagree on that one. But I understand where you're going with it.
But you're actually disagreeing with your church right now.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Catholic Church believes that the Word of God is true.
Yeah, I disagree with my church on a number of things. Yes, absolutely. And I believe, and Jesus called us to. Yes, absolutely. He called us to disagree. He called us to question. He talks about the knock on the door. He's talking about it. He's talking about that. He's talking about looking into the idea. Yeah, it's okay. We shouldn't do that today. But that's what he's talking about. You should question. You should examine your faith.
Well, you can, but you should absolutely believe that the Bible is the true word of God, because if you don't, what do you have? If there are parts of the Bible that you can just dismiss and go, well, I don't agree with those, well, then what's your form of authority? Where do you place that? You're placing your own experience as your form of authority.
Be careful with that, because there's a segment in there that talks about how you need to treat your slaves. Be careful with that.
Right. And proper exegesis understands that there are certain rules given to Israel at certain times, and there are universal rules. There's nothing wrong with that.
Now who's making excuses and being conditional?
You don't have to look at the Bible and say everything is universal at all points at all times.
But a minute ago it was.
No.
Yes, it was.
It is the belief that the Bible is true. It is proper exegesis, Bill. All right,
again,
you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, January 29th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history, and Donald Trump's your president. Let's get off and running. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, RFK Jr. just about to kick off his Senate confirmation hearing. We'll go live to that. But first, Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. 22 degrees, clear in Denver, expecting a high of 46. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, RFK Jr.'s first of two Senate confirmation hearings just about underway right now. DJT picked the former independent presidential candidate to head the Department of Health and Human Services. Today, he'll appear before the Senate Committee on Finance, where he'll be asked about his plans for Medicare and Medicaid and much more. Medicaid. The 47 administration is planning to offer buyouts to federal workers who don't want to return to the office. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the so-called deferred resignation offer that would include a severance package of roughly 8 months' pay and benefits.
American workers, the middle class, who keep this government up and running with their hard-earned tax dollars, have to show up to the office every day, and President Trump expects bureaucrats to do the same. And if they don't like it, well, guess what? They are getting a very generous payout from this administration.
The administration says it expects 5 to 10% of the federal workforce to quit. The Fed is expected to leave interest rates unchanged today. It comes as they weigh how the Trump administration's economic agenda might impact inflation and the economy as a whole. A pause would come after a flurry of interest rate cuts that started in September. President Trump is signing the Laken Riley Act today, requiring that illegal immigrants accused of theft and violent crimes be locked up. Senator John Cornyn says the bill garnered wide bipartisan support.
The situation is so dire that now Democrats, after the November 5th election, are actually finally seeing the light.
The Texas Republican successfully added an amendment to the bill, including assault of a police officer to the list of crimes that trigger mandatory detention. Today's bill signing is a first for the new president.
12 of our Democratic colleagues in the Senate, 46 in the House, supported that bill, which I have to think before the November 5th election, they would have uniformly voted against.
Trende Aragua ringleader and the jackwagon who was caught on camera terrorizing residents in Aurora has been arrested by the DJT administration. Anderson Zambrano Pacheco was wanted in Colorado on kidnapping, burglary, and menacing charges. He was busted in the first immigration raids in New York City, actually in the Bronx, early Tuesday morning. Neighbors believe he had been there since the fall and said he looked angry when they took him in and then took him out in cuffs. Governor Polis probably thinks it was all of their imagination. Just my imagination. Back to Leavitt. New White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt handled her business in her first official presser.
I commit to telling the truth from this podium every single day. I commit to speaking on behalf of the President of the United States. That is my job. And I will say it's very easy to speak truth from this podium when you have a president who is implementing policies that are wildly popular with the American people. And that's exactly what this administration is doing. It's correcting the lies and the wrongs of the past 4 years, many of the lies that have been told to your faces in this very briefing room. I will not do that. But since you brought up Truth Seek, I would like to point out While I vow to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House. So yes, I will hold myself to the truth, and I expect everyone in this room to do the same.
Good for her. Nuggets at the Knicks tonight. Tip off 5:30. Avalanche lose to the Islanders 5-2 last night. And I love this. Texas Longhorns head coach, football coach, Steve Sarkisian, at a coaching clinic.
Okay, so what is discipline in our eyes? Dress of the day, being out to practice early, having your hand actually behind the line. Nothing drives me nuts more. If you got a rule, hand behind the line when you're running gassers or whatever you're doing, and the strength coach or whoever's saying, hey, hand behind the line, and 7 guys got their hand on or over the line, and nobody says anything. Well, let's not say it. If we're going to say hand behind the line, get our hand behind the line.
The line is the line. If the rule is behind the line, get behind the line. In real life, if you cross a border illegally, you're breaking the law. You're illegal. Do it the right way.
I mean,
we have a system.
Blake, to your point, here's the press secretary yesterday.
Carolina immigration. Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have done one of the worst first. They all have a criminal record.
And welcome to the great
If they broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal. Yes.
Imagine that. Common sense has returned. God, that was great. That really was. It's 22 in Aurora, 21 in Wheat Ridge. Thank you, Jeff, for that. 23 in Denver. It is Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue.
Give me a freaking break.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Increasing high and mid-level cloudiness today as a storm system is developing and going across New Mexico and southern Colorado. Expect partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the 40s, thickening clouds tonight, snow showers possible after midnight, especially south and east of Denver, lows mid-20s. Could see a little bit of light snow Thursday, maybe some light accumulations, highs 30s and 40s, 20s Thursday night and clearing, dry and mild for Friday and the weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're going to go live to the RFK Jr. confirmation hearing for HHS Secretary.
Experiment to our great nation. On other healthcare matters, from abortion to universal healthcare, Mr. Kennedy has changed his views so often it is nearly impossible to know where he stands on so many of the basic issues that impact Americans' daily lives. In a gobsmacking statement of irresponsibility, in November 2023, Mr. Kennedy said that he wanted to pause infectious disease research for 8 years. Mr. Kennedy has indicated he's open to restricting access to the abortion medication mifepristone, which remains a primary target of the Republican crusade against reproductive freedom. I took this on back in 1990 when I chaired the first congressional hearing on the topic. The science was clear then. It's even clearer today. Mifepristone is safe. The only reason it's under question in 2025 is because people with a political agenda have been out lying about it. Women deserve to know if Mr. Kennedy will abuse his power as our country's chief health officer to essentially implement a national abortion ban by restricting access to the safe and legal medication. Meanwhile, as the Trump budget office threw the Medicaid program into chaos yesterday, Republicans in Congress are proposing deep cuts to the program that will rip away health care from millions of Americans who count on this vital lifeline. Cuts to Medicaid of this magnitude are going to jack up the cost of health insurance. It'll shutter nursing homes and rural hospitals, deprive seniors and Americans with disabilities of home-based care. That approach amounts to handing over our nation's health system to for-profit insurance companies who've made a fortune delaying and denying care.
This is Ron Wyden,
Mr. Kennedy has
the
virtually
top
no knowledge
Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee.
It leaves
Robert F. Kennedy looks bored already. We're 2 minutes into this thing.
When the Trump Budget Office shut down the federal Medicaid payment portal. After a careful review of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s statements, actions, and views, materials that I have reviewed personally and closely, I've reached the conclusion that he should not be entrusted with the health and well-being of the American people. When he's taken every side of every issue, how can this committee and the American people believe he has anything to say? Let me close by saying I believe more strongly than ever, and I have specialized in healthcare during my time in public service, that we're at a turning point with regard to healthcare in America. If there's one word to describe Americans' feelings towards the healthcare system, it's disillusioned. At every single turn, people feel like they're rolling a load of dice, loaded dice, when they try to get health care. Americans are justifiably angry, fed up, and tired of a system that puts profits over patients. Instead of debating meaningful ways to improve Americans' health care, now the committee is being forced to relitigate settled science about vaccines and whether or not the federal government should help Americans get affordable health care. I know where Democrats on this finance committee stand when it comes to an agenda to lower costs and improve
I know, I was
care.
going to say that.
I must say,
That's Robert F. Kennedy
I cannot say the
breathing.
same about the nominee.
You know, you can
sitting
just turn
in
off
front
his
of me.
mic
I know.
when he's
And
not
let me
talking.
acknowledge, finally, Mr. Chairman, Terry Mills from Portland, Oregon, who is here to represent Nurses for America, and I'd like to enter a statement from her organization into the record at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection. Thank you, Ranking Member Wyden. Mr. Kennedy, in a few moments, you will be given the opportunity to make your opening statement and respond to these attacks and other questions that the members of this committee have. I would say that with regard to the attack on Medicaid that we just heard, that was a false attack. It's been proven false overnight. The Medicaid portal is operating efficiently today and was never intended to be shut down.
Would gentleman yield since he's mentioned my name? There was a significant amount of time yesterday where there was bedlam across the country over the status of the Medicaid portals. I hope it's being corrected, but there were problems all through the day.
There certainly were attacks yesterday. The problem has been clarified and the Medicaid portal is fully
sounds like a Jeff and Bill
operational
show.
as we speak.
Yes, it does.
Mr. Kennedy, before I turn the time over to you to share your opening statement, I would like to give you a brief introduction. The son of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and nephew of President John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr. has been an advocate for consumers since 1985. After graduating from Harvard University, Mr. Kennedy studied at the London School of Economics and received his law degree from the University of Virginia Law School and a master's degree in environmental law from Pace University. He has founded 2 advocacy groups and has spent the last 40 years working to restore and protect children's health. He was a former independent candidate in the 2024 presidential election, and President Trump nominated him this year to be in November of 2024 to be the HHS secretary. In announcing his nomination, President Trump stated, "Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions of gold standard scientific research and beacons of transparency and end the chronic disease epidemic and make America great and healthy again." Before you give your opening statement, Mr. Kennedy, I have 4 obligatory questions that we ask all nominees before this committee. First, is there anything that you are aware of in your background that might present a conflict of interest with the duties of the office to which you have been nominated?
All right. No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do you know of any reason, personal or otherwise, that would in any way prevent you from fully and honorably discharging the responsibilities of the office to which you have been nominated?
No, I do not.
Do you agree without reservation to respond to any reasonable summons to appear and testify before any duly constituted committee of Congress if you are confirmed?
Yes, I do.
And finally, do you commit to providing a prompt response in writing to any questions addressed to you by any senator of this committee?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And before you begin, if you would like to, you may introduce your wife and children.
Yes. My wife, Cheryl Hines, is here. My daughter, Kit Kennedy, my son, Bobby Kennedy, his wife, Amaryllis Fox Kennedy, and my nephew, Jackson Hines, is here too.
We welcome you all. Thank you. You may proceed with your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Crapo, Ranking Member Wyden, and members of this distinguished committee. I'm humbled to be sitting here today as President Trump's nominee to oversee the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I want to thank President Trump for entrusting me to deliver on his promise to make America healthy again. I also want to thank Cheryl and Kik and Bobby and all of my other children who are here today and all the many members of my large extended family for the love that they have so generously shared. Ours has always been a family that has been involved in public service, and I look forward to continuing that tradition. My journey into the issue of health began with my career as an environmental attorney, working with hunters and fishermen and mothers in the small town in the Hudson Valley and along the Hudson River. I learned very early on that human health and environmental injuries are intertwined. The same chemicals that kill fish make people sick also. Today, Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. Over 70% of adults and a third of children are overweight or obese. Diabetes is 10 times more prevalent than it was during the 1960s. Cancer among young people is rising by 1 or 2% a year. Autoimmune diseases, neurodevelopmental disorders, Alzheimer's, asthma, ADHD, depression, addiction, and a host of other physical and mental health conditions are all on the rise, some of them exponentially. The United States has worse health than any other developed nation, yet we spend more on healthcare, at least double, and in some cases triple, as other countries. Last year, we spent $4.8 trillion, not counting the indirect costs of missed work. That's almost a fifth of GDP. It's tantamount to a 20% tax on the entire economy. No wonder America has trouble competing with countries that pay a third of what we do for health and have better outcomes and a healthier workforce. And I don't want to make this too much about money. It's the human tragedy that moves us to care. President Trump has promised to restore America's global strength and to restore the American dream, but he understands we can't be a strong nation when our people are so sick. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person has only one. Today, over half of our countrymen and women are chronically ill. When I met with President Trump last summer, I discovered that he is more than just concern for this tragic situation, but genuine care. President Trump is committed to restoring the American dream, and 77 million Americans delivered a mandate to him to do just that, due in part to the embrace and elevation of the Make America Healthy Again movement. This movement, led largely by Maha moms from every state, you can see many of them behind us today,
and in the hallways and in the lobbies is one of the most transcendent and powerful movements I've ever seen. I promised President Trump that if confirmed, I will do everything in my power to put the health of Americans back on track. And I've been greatly heartened to discover a deep level of care among members of this committee too, both Democrats and Republicans. I came away from our conversations confident that we can put aside our divisions for the sake of a healthier America. For a long time, the nation has been locked in a divisive healthcare debate about who pays. Well, when healthcare costs reach 20%, there are no good options, only bad ones. Shifting the burden around between government and corporations and insurers and providers and families is like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Our country will sink beneath a sea of desperation and debt if we don't change the course and ask, why are healthcare costs so high in the first place? The obvious answer is chronic disease. The CDC says 90% of healthcare spending goes toward managing chronic disease, which hits lower income Americans the hardest. The president's pledge is not to make some Americans healthy again, but to make all of our people healthy again. There is no single culprit in chronic disease. Much as I have criticized certain industries and agencies, President Trump and I understand that most of their scientists and experts genuinely care about American health. Therefore, we will bring together all stakeholders in pursuit of this unifying goal. Before I conclude, I want to make sure the committee is clear about a few things. News reports have claimed that I'm anti-vaccine or anti-industry. I am neither. I am pro-safety.
I was wondering when they were going to come and start yelling. There we go.
We're listening to the committee hearing of Robert F. Kennedy.
It doesn't matter when the first one's going to do this. They do it at every committee meeting. It doesn't matter when they're trying to confirm.
Yep.
It's just a matter of
I
when.
am pro-safety. I worked for years to raise awareness about the mercury and toxic chemicals in fish, and nobody called me anti-fish. And I believe that that vaccines play a critical role in healthcare. All of my kids are vaccinated. I've written many books on vaccines. My first book in 2014, the first line of it is, I am not anti-vaccine, and the last line is, I am not anti-vaccine. Nor am I the enemy of food producers. American farms are the bedrock of our culture, of our politics, of our national security. I was a 4-H kid, and I spent my summer working on ranches. I went to work with our farmers. I want to work with our farmers and food producers to remove burdensome regulations and unleash American ingenuity. MAHA simply cannot succeed without a partnership, a full partnership of American farmers. In my advocacy, I've often disturbed the status quo by asking uncomfortable questions. Well, I'm not going to apologize for that. We have massive health problems in this country that we must face honestly. And the first thing I've done every morning for the past 20 years is to get on my knees and pray to God that he would put me in a position to end the chronic disease epidemic and to help America's children. That's why I'm so grateful to President Trump for the opportunity to sit before you today and seek your support and partnership in this endeavor. I will conclude with a promise. The members of this committee, to the president, and to all the tens of millions of parents across America, especially the moms, who have propelled this issue to center stage. Should I be so privileged as to be confirmed, we will make sure our tax dollars support healthy foods. We will scrutinize the chemical additives in our food supply. We will remove financial conflicts of interest from our agencies. We will create an honest, unbiased, gold standard science at HHS, accountable to the president, to Congress, and to the American people. We will reverse the chronic disease epidemic and put the nation back on the road to good health. Thank you.
That's Robert F. Kennedy at his Senate confirmation hearing. We'll be jumping in and out of this hearing, especially as the fireworks pop off, because that's what we're all about on this show. Look, do you know a high school student who has a passion for engaging in cultural and political issues? The knowledge and skills needed to impact the world through civic engagement is an ever-increasing need in today's society. Colorado Christian University is at the forefront of meeting this crucial need, equipping the next generation of competent, convictional Christian leadership in American politics. CCU's degree program in politics with an emphasis in public policy prepares students for the complex challenges of modern politics from an unapologetically Christian and foundationally conservative worldview. In this distinct program, students learn how to impact public policy and advance Christian conservative ideas. Colorado Christian University also houses the Centennial Institute, a think tank committed to mobilizing ideas on faith, family, and freedom to strengthen America's future. CCU's mission to produce graduates who impact the world with grace and truth applies in no greater measure than to our politics and public policy program. Apply today at ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. We'll continue with Robert F. Kennedy and his Senate confirmation hearing. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. Right now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is facing a Senate committee confirmation hearing. Let's tune in.
The COVID vaccine without any scientific basis for 6-year-old children. Most experts agree today, even the people who did it back then, that COVID vaccines are inappropriate for 6-year-old children who basically have a zero risk from COVID. That's why I brought that lawsuit. I don't want to. I want to emphasize
Mr. Kennedy, the facts.
I'd like to be one of those cops. I think it'd be fun to chase down a protester. How quickly can you get him?
For a second, Mr. Kennedy, to the audience. Comments from the audience are inappropriate and out of order. And if there are any further disruptions, the committee will recess until the police can restore order. Please follow the rules of the committee. Mr. Kennedy, you may proceed.
I also want to point out that your recitation of what happened in Samoa is absolutely wrong, and you know it's wrong.
We'll get to that in a moment. Right now, we're talking about the petition that you filed to block Americans from having access to the vaccine and to prevent any future access to the vaccine. Those facts are on the record. My third question to you is, you made almost $5 million from book deals, mostly promoting junk science. In 2021, in a book called The Measles Book, you wrote that parents had been, quote, misled into believing that measles is a deadly disease and that measles vaccines are necessary, safe, and effective. The reality is measles are in fact deadly and highly contagious, something that you should have learned after your lives contributed to the deaths of 83 people, most of them children, in a measles outbreak in Samoa. So my question here is, Mr. Kennedy, is measles deadly, yes or no?
The death rate from measles historically in this country in 1963, the year before the introduction of the vaccine, was 1 in 10,000. Let me explain what happened in Samoa. In Samoa in 2017 or 2015, there were 2 kids who died following the MMR vaccine. And the vaccination rates in Samoa dropped precipitously from about 63% to the mid-30s. So they've never been very high. And in 2018, 2 more kids died following the MMR vaccine, and the government of Samoa banned the MMR vaccine. I arrived a year later when vaccination rates were already below any previous level. I went there, nothing to do with vaccines. I went there to introduce a medical informatics system that would digitalize records in Samoa and make health delivery much more efficient. I never gave any public statement about vaccines. You cannot find a single Samoan who will say, I didn't get a vaccine because of Bobby Kennedy. I went in June of 2019. The measles outbreak started in August. Oh, clearly I had nothing to do with the measles. Not only that,
Mr. Kennedy,
Senator, not only that, if you let me finish, Senator,
you have had some time.
If you let me finish, Senator, if you let me finish, there are 83 people died when the tissue samples were sent to New Zealand. Most of those people did not have measles. We don't know what was killing them. The same outbreak occurred in Tonga and Fiji, and no extra people died. There were 7 measles outbreaks in the 13 years prior to my arrival.
I just would like to get my time back. The nominee wrote a book saying that people had been misled into believing that measles is a deadly disease. He's trying now to play down his role in Samoa. That's not what the parents say. That's not what Governor Green says. It's time to make sure that we blow the whistle on actually what your views are. At least we're starting.
We need to move
Senator,
on.
I support the measles vaccine. I support the polio vaccine. I will do nothing as HHS secretary that makes it difficult or discourages people from taking either of those
Anybody
vaccines.
who believes that ought to look at the measles book you wrote saying parents have been misled into believing that measles is a deadly disease. That's not true.
We need to move on. Senator Grassley.
Welcome. I'm going to do like I did in my office, I'm just going to make some points to you. I got about 7 I want to quickly get done. And then at the end, I'm going to ask if you disagree with anything I say, and then address those things you disagree with. I'll make sure I save time for you to do that.
This is Senator
A key
Chuck Grassley of
responsibility of
Iowa,
each member
Republican.
of Congress is oversight. Oversight allows us to hold bureaucrats accountable to the rule of law, and it helps keep faith with taxpayers. I expect HHS to provide timely and complete responses to congressional oversight. Number 2, PBMs, something you and I discussed in our office. I've been working to hold pharmacy benefit managers accountable in order to lower prescription drug prices. I expect you to work with us to hold PBMs accountable, and that may even asking your support for legislation that's before the Congress. Drug pricing. Senator Durbin and I have for a while been trying to get a bill passed that requires price disclosures on TV ads for prescription drugs. Knowing what something costs before buying it is just common sense. President Trump tried to do this by regulation in his first term. Vice President Vance co-sponsored our bill last Congress. I ask you to support this bill, or if you can do it by regulation, to do it by regulation. On rural health care, the previous administration dragged its feet in opening up slots for rural community hospital demonstration programs. It also ignored concerns from rural pharmacies when implementing changes to Medicare Part D, and ignored rural needs when it comes to distributing physician residency slots. I expect you to prioritize rural Americans' healthcare needs. On agriculture, in our meeting earlier this month, we talked at length about agriculture. You prefaced the conversation by saying you will not have jurisdiction over these issues. I expect you to leave agricultural practice regulations to the proper agencies, and for the most part, that's USDA and EPA. On dietary guidelines, I've sent letters to the secretaries of agriculture at HHS requesting that they provide information regarding conflicts of interest on the Dietary Guideline Advisory Committee to increase transparency. I expect you to provide Congress with confidential financial disclosures from the advisory committee before finalizing dietary guidelines, so we know that nobody has a vested interest in it, is having undue influence. Lastly, HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement Oversight. Last year, I expanded my investigation into HHS's Office of Refugee Resettlement. I wrote 24 contractors and grantees whose job it is to place unaccompanied children with sponsors. In many cases, children have been placed with improper vetted sponsors, placing them at risk of trafficking. The Biden administration's HHS directed these taxpayer-funded contractors and grantees to not respond to my inquiry. This is obstruction by the executive branch. I expect you to produce to me the records and data I've requested and instruct HHS contractors to fully cooperate with my investigation. I also expect HHS to not retaliate against any whistleblowers, including those who identify ORR's failures in vetting sponsors of unaccompanied. You got 45 seconds to respond if you want to.
I agree with all of those provisions, Senator. My approach to administration HHS will be radical transparency. If members of this committee or other members of Congress want information, the doors are open. I've spent many years litigating against NIH and its sub-agencies, HHS and its sub-agencies, NIH, CDC, FDA, on FOIA issues, trying to get information that we, the taxpayers, paid for, and oftentimes getting back redacted copies after a year or 2 years of litigation. That should not be the case. And if Congress asks me for information, you will get it immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Cantwell is next, but until she returns, I will move on to down the list, and that would be Senator Cornyn.
Mr. Kennedy,
John
welcome to you
Cornyn
and your
of
family,
Texas.
and congratulations. I appreciate Senator Grassley raising the issue of the Office of Refugee Resettlement within the auspices of Health and Human Services. I think this may surprise people, but that's actually the responsibility of HHS, the Office of Resettlement Relocation. Under the previous administration, as Senator Grassley alluded, there were roughly 500,000 children, unaccompanied minors, that were placed with sponsors in the interior of the United States. The previous administration took the position that it was not the federal government's responsibility once these children were placed with these sponsors. But the New York Times, in a series of investigative stories, pointed out that tens of thousands of these children, when they tried to follow up and find out how they were doing, whether they were going to school, whether they were being trafficked or abused, there was no answer. And they took the position it was not their responsibility. So I look forward to working with you to find those children and to make sure that they're not being abused. Millions of Americans are experiencing mild to moderate mental health and substance abuse issues, yet many struggle with timely and effective access. Primary care physicians are most likely to be seeing these individuals as opposed to a specialist, and it makes it important that these individuals, primary care physicians, be trained in patient-centered care, which would strengthen the integration of behavioral health care with primary care services. Is this something that you are concerned about, something you'd be willing to work with us on in order to implement?
Yes, Senator, and let me just reassure you that President Trump has personally spoken to me about locating those 300,000 children who disappeared over the last 4 years.
I don't think anybody has a fully accurate number, but it's hundreds of thousands, I agree.
And many of them we know have been sex trafficked and childhood slavery, and it is a blight on America's moral authority, and we need to find those kids. In terms of addiction services and substance abuse services, this is a priority for me. It was a priority for me when I was running for president during my campaign. I was a heroin
You're
addict
listening
for
to the
14
Jeff and
years.
Bill shows. We provide live coverage of Robert F. Kennedy's confirmation, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s confirmation hearing before the U.S. Senate. We'll continue. I want to talk to you real quickly about my friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. He's pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. He has spent the last 40 years of his life helping people who are hurt in a serious motor vehicle crash. But more than that, Dan is a real winner in the courtroom. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Phone number 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. We'll continue with the live hearing of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. before the U.S. Senate committee as they seek to approve him as new HHS secretary. But first, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The esteemed Senator of Colorado, Michael Bennett, now grilling Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at his confirmation hearing. Let's go back live.
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy? This
believe-
matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true, that's not reflective of what you really believe, that you haven't said over decade after decade after decade, because unlike other jobs we're confirming around this place, this is a job where it is life and death for the kids that I used to work for in the Denver public schools and for families all over this country that are suffering from living in the richest country of the world that can't deliver basic health care and basic mental health care to them. It's too important for the games that you're playing, Mr. Kennedy. And I hope my colleagues will say to the president, I have no influence over him. I hope my colleagues will say to the president, out of 330 million Americans, we can do better than this.
Thank you. We need to move on. Senator Cassidy.
Mr. Kennedy, President Trump has sworn to protect Medicare. Republicans are exploring reforms to Medicaid that could help pay for Trump administration priorities. With this context, what will you do about dual eligibles?
About
dual eligibles?
Well, dual eligibles are not right now served very well under the system. Those are people who are eligible for both Medicaid and Medicare. I suppose my answer to that is to make sure that the programs are consolidated, that they're integrated, and the care is integrated. I look forward to working with you, Dr. Cassidy, on making sure that we take good care of people who are dual eligible.
And how do you propose that we integrate those programs? Does Medicare pay more, Medicare pay less, Medicaid pay more, Medicaid pay less? How do we do that?
Well, I'm not exactly sure because I'm not in there. I mean, it is difficult to integrate them because Medicare is under fee-for-service, is paid for by employer taxes. Medicaid is fully paid for by the federal government, and it's not fee-for-service. So I do not know the answer to that. I look forward to exploring options with you.
Republicans, again, are looking at ways to potentially reform Medicaid to help, pay for President Trump's priorities, but to improve outcomes. What thoughts do you have regarding Medicaid reform?
Well, Medicaid is not working for Americans, and it's specifically not working for the target population. Most Americans like myself, I'm on Medicare Advantage, and I'm very happy with it. Most people who are on Medicaid are not happy. The premiums are too high. The deductibles are too high. The networks are narrow. The best doctors.
All right, we're going to take a real quick, brief break. At the top of the hour, we'll be back to provide live coverage of Robert F. Kennedy and his confirmation hearing before the U.S. Senate. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Keep dropping off the tree. I'll remember it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're covering Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Senate confirmation hearing. We're jumping in and out of it. Let's check in first on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. I guess I just missed Michael Bennett. That must have been entertaining.
We'll have to go back and listen to that. Hey,
right when I turned it up.
Well, kid, I would love anybody to text me what Michael Bennett has done for them as a U.S.
Yeah, same here. Wow, he's a lifesaver. 29 degrees, sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 46. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
After a careful review of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s statements, actions, and views, materials that I have reviewed personally and closely, I've reached the conclusion that he should not be entrusted with the health and well-being of the American people.
Democratic Senator Ron Wyden, Oregon. All I need to know. RFK Jr.'s first of two Senate confirmation hearings underway. A protester screamed out with an annoying cackle after RFK Jr. said he's not anti-vax, which he's not. DJT picked the former independent presidential candidate to head the Department of Health and Human Services.
Today, Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. Over 70% of adults and a third of children are overweight or obese. Diabetes is 10 times more prevalent than it was during the 1960s. Cancer among young people is rising by 1 or 2% a year. Autoimmune diseases, neurodevelopmental disorders, Alzheimer's, asthma.
Big Pharma and the globalists hate him because he's about to expose all these frauds. Wyden had the mic again, and he continued.
Or did you lie on all those podcasts? We have all of this on tape, by the way.
Yeah, Senator, as you know, because it's been repeatedly debunked, that statement that I made on the Lex Friedman podcast was a fragment of the statement. He asked me, and anybody who actually goes and looks at that podcast, and we'll see this. He asked me, are there vaccines that are safe and effective? And I said to him, some of the live virus vaccines are. And I said, there are no vaccines that are safe and effective. And I was going to continue for every person. Every medicine has people who are sensitive to them, including vaccines.
Right. So
he interrupted me at that point.
That's true. Watched it, and that's exactly what happened. The 47 administration planning to offer buyouts to federal workers who don't want to return to the office. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who's doing a great job already, defended the deferred resignation offer that would include a severance package of roughly 8 months' pay and benefits.
American workers, the middle class, who keep this government up and running with their hard-earned tax dollars, have to show up to the office every day, and President Trump expects bureaucrats to do the same. And if they don't like it, well, guess what? They are getting a very generous payout from this administration.
And the administration says it expects 5 to 10% of the federal workforce to quit. The Fed expected to leave interest rates unchanged today. It comes as they weigh how the Trump administration's economic agenda might impact inflation and the economy as a whole. President Trump is signing the Laken Riley Act today, requiring that illegal immigrants accused of theft and violent crimes be locked up. Senator John Cornyn says the bill garnered wide bipartisan support.
The situation is so dire that now Democrats, after the November 5th election, are actually finally seeing the light.
The Texas Republican successfully added an amendment to the bill, including assault of a police officer to the list of crimes that trigger mandatory detention. Today's bill signing is a first for the new president.
12 of our Democratic colleagues in the Senate, 46 in the House, supported that bill, which I have to think before the November 5th election, they would have uniformly voted against.
And it's not your imagination. Trende Aragua ringleader, the criminal who was caught on camera terrorizing residents in Aurora, has been arrested by the DJT administration. Anderson Zambrano Pacheco was wanted in Colorado on kidnapping, burglary, and menacing charges, was busted in the first immigration raids in New York City in the Bronx early Tuesday morning. Neighbors believed that he had been there since the fall, and they said that he looked very angry when they took him out in cuffs. The Avalanche lose to the Islanders 5-2 last night. The Nuggets and the Knicks tonight in New York tip off at 5:30. 27 in Centennial, 26 in Arvada, 29 in Denver. It is Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Have a great Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald.
Increasing high and mid-level cloudiness today as a storm system is developing and going across New Mexico and southern Colorado. Expect partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the 40s, thickening clouds tonight, snow showers possible after midnight, especially south and east of Denver, lows mid-20s. Could see a little bit of light snow Thursday, maybe some light accumulations, highs 30s and 40s, 20s Thursday night and clearing, dry and mild for Friday and the weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, let's go back to the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. committee hearing. This is live.
Community health centers, those are direct.
Are you talking about the Indian health centers?
No, I'm talking about community health centers across the country.
I understand that. I mean, I strongly.
So you're going to excuse Indian health centers, which is good, but others are not. They're going to get their
This is
funds
Mark
frozen.
Warner,
I strongly
Virginia
support community
Democrat.
health centers, as does the president.
So does that mean you're not going to freeze the funding that is currently frozen?
The White House has made clear that none of that funding is supposed to be frozen.
Sir, the direct payments are different than how the government operates. We fund the federal government down to community health centers. As a former governor, there's lots and lots of state programs that are related to healthcare that come from the federal government. They come down to the state, then it goes to local programs. All of those don't directly pay out $1 at a time, but they come from federal funding. They are all, even though they keep changing the guidance on a minute-by-minute basis, based upon 9:45 or 10:30 or 10:45, whatever time it is today, those funds are still frozen. Sir, I just honestly, I want to give you a fair shot, but I don't feel like you approach this job with the knowledge and candidly your willingness not to commit, try to recommend to the president to make sure these funds are unfrozen and that people's lives are at stake is a very disappointing answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Langford.
Chairman, thank you. Mr. Kennedy, it's good to see you again. We had some great visits in my office. We've done some follow-up calls to be able to go through. You and I have talked about 100 different issues and backgrounds and things. You've been able to address a lot of them today and just different questions to be able to clear up social media rumors and the things that are out there on it. So I do appreciate that. We've talked about pharmacy benefit managers. We've talked about the nursing home rule the Biden administration put down. We talked about your views on agriculture and commercial and row crop agriculture. We've talked about food issues, and you made it very, very clear. You're not going to tell Americans what to eat, but you do want Americans to know what they're eating. And I think that's a pretty fair perspective on that. I do want to talk to you about some areas that you and I have talked about as well. We have some disagreements, you and I, on the issue of life and when life begins on that. You've been very outspoken on that, and we've had some good opportunities to be able to talk about that. Title 10 is specifically in the HHS area. This has been an area that has been interpreted for a long time, and President Trump in the first administration interpreted that rule to say that his administration will prohibit the performance, referral for, or promotion of abortion as a part of the Title 10 program. That he made that very clear in the first administration. Obviously, that's his decision to make again on that, on how he wants to handle that, and he's made a lot of public statements on that. The Biden administration not only reversed that, not only rescinded that rule, but they went one step the other direction. In my state, in Oklahoma, as you and I have talked about, the Biden administration cut off funding to the state of Oklahoma for AIDS testing, for breast cancer screening, and for other areas of poverty healthcare because my state didn't promote abortion. It wouldn't provide. If my state wouldn't promote abortion in the state, we got cut off for federal funds for AIDS testing and for other things. My simple question to you is, how are you going to handle Title 10 on that? I saw how President Biden handled that in the punitive measures that came on my state for those that are in rural healthcare. How are you going to handle Title 10?
I'm going to support President Trump's policies on Title 10. I agree with President Trump that every abortion is a tragedy. I agree with him that we cannot be a moral nation if we have 1.2 million abortions a year. I agree with him that the states should control abortion. President Trump has told me that he wants to end late-term abortions, and he wants to protect conscience exemptions, and that he wants to end federal funding for abortions here or abroad. That's Title 10. I serve at the pleasure of the president. I'm going to implement his policies.
Thank you for that. President Biden, when he came in,
Important
immediately
answer
closed
from my
down
perspective.
the Office of Civil Rights and Conscience Protections within HHS. There's a statement that's come out recently that he's going to reopen that office again to be able to protect the civil rights of Americans. One of the things that Javier Becerra did immediately when he came into HHS was conscience protections for medical professionals that were being compelled against their conscience to perform medical procedures that violated their conscience. Javier Becerra stepped in immediately into HHS and withdrew that and said, no, the federal government will tell you what you believe about these issues. You don't have conscience protections anymore, and refuse to protect those folks. Will you step in and say that healthcare individuals have the right of conscience again, as the federal law allows?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that occurs to me when you ask that question is, what patient would want somebody doing a surgery on them that, believes that the surgery is against their conscience, being forced to perform that? I don't know anybody who would want to have a doctor performing a surgery that the doctor is morally opposed to. Listen, I came from a family that was split on life and choice. I have cousins today who believe that abortion at any stage is equivalent to homicide. Now, there are other people who believe the opposite. But the good thing in my family that I really loved is that we were able to have those conversations and respect each other. And I wish that we could do that nationally. And if forcing somebody to participate in a medical procedure as a provider that they believe is murder does not make any sense to me. We need to welcome diversity in this country. We need to respect diversity, and we need to respect each other when we have different opinions, and not force our opinions on other people.
Yeah, thank you for that. The FDA, under the Biden administration, changed the rules for the chemical abortion drug and said you no longer need to see a physician. So if you have an ectopic pregnancy or all kinds of, don't even go anymore to see a physician. But they also changed an area that has been something that's been very particular. You've talked about a lot, and that's transparency. They changed the position and said, don't tell us if there's a side effect on this drug unless she dies. But other than that, don't tell us anymore. Literally, don't give transparent information to the American people or to the women who take this drug anymore. We don't want that reported. My question to you is, will FDA move to be able to actually give transparency to the American people and to say, this drug is no different than any other drug. We're not going to protect it just because it's political for some folks. People should know side effects on this drug, and there should be reporting.
Yeah, I mean, it's against everything we believe in this country that patients or doctors should not be reporting adverse events. We need to know what adverse events are. We need to understand the safety of every drug, mifepristone and every other drug. And President Trump has made it clear to me that one of the things, he is not taking a position yet on mifepristone, a detailed position, but he's made it clear to me that he wants me to look at safety issues. And I'll ask NIH, FDA to do that.
Thank you.
Senator Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Kennedy, I only have 5 minutes with you, and I've got a lot of experience with CMS, so you're just going to have to listen. Two things.
It's just Sheldon Whitehouse. This will be good.
If you want to move from advocacy to public responsibility, Americans are going to need to hear a clear and trustworthy recantation of what you have said on vaccinations. including a promise from you never to say vaccines aren't medically safe when they in fact are, and making indisputably clear that you support mandatory vaccinations against diseases where that will keep people safe. You're in that hole pretty deep. We've just had a measles case in Rhode Island, the first since 2013. And frankly, you frighten people. 2, I want to air harms that Rhode Island has experienced from a remorseless, senseless CMS bureaucracy. CMS has for years maintained a reimbursement system that the bureaucracy could never explain, never justify, that persistently pays Rhode Island providers less than neighboring Massachusetts and Connecticut providers. A differential of 23 and 26% in our regional healthcare market. The Pending Ahead program can begin to remedy this, at least for value-based care, and it must. There has to be payment parity in the region. Rhode Island's healthcare system is bleeding out because we aren't paid what neighboring hospitals and doctors are paid. And the one act CMS took on this years ago was to make it worse. The CMS bureaucracy has also attacked one of the best accountable care organizations in the country, Rhode Island's Integra family doctors. Tried to throw them off the shared savings program because they said Integra years ago briefly fell 137 patients short of the 5,000 patients that ACOs need. CMS wouldn't listen until a court found that to be unjustified, likely illegal, irreparable harm to this high-performing ACO and its patients, and contrary to the public interest. That must stop. Last, CMS has refused to approve waivers granted elsewhere for Rhode Island from rules that are stupid for Medicare patients who are nearing the end of their days. Here's what families see. Granny is home dying. She needs to transfer to a nursing home, and Medicare insists on putting her 3 days and 2 nights in a hospital. Expensive, frightening to Granny and the family, and stupid. Granny's home dying and can't get palliative and curative care together. Inhumane and stupid. Granny's home dying and can't get home care if she can still get out into the yard or be driven to see the shore, to see Narragansett Beach, say, one more time, to recall childhood memories before she dies. Inhumane and stupid. Granny's home dying and the family's exhausted. And the respite care benefit is not to send a nurse or a caregiver, but to stuff Granny in an ambulance and haul her off to a hospital. Some respite. It's all expensive, frightening, inhumane, and stupid. But the insensate CMS bureaucracy takes a court order to be awakened to the harm they cause. I have had enough. CMS should let Rhode Island try humane end-of-life care through CMMI.
Oh, boy.
Let's see if it works at a state. I bet it will save money, serve families better at a very, very delicate time, and perhaps even make a model for better health care everywhere. I've said a lot. My time is out. You're welcome to respond in writing. I ask unanimous consent that the order.
That was not what I was. I thought Sheldon Whitehouse would go for it, but no, he's talking about Granny and end-of-life care.
Man, that was a surprise.
That was a surprise.
And you know, he does talk about choices inside of medical care and making the wrong choices. And Jeff, I want to talk to our audience a second about a brand new advertiser here, Wound Care Associates of Colorado, because It is about choices and making bad medical choices. You know that ignoring a problem isn't going to fix the problem. It's never worked. But ignoring that wound, that cut, that you don't think is a big deal now, that can turn into a very, very big deal later on, because that torn tissue, torn skin is the exact place that dirt, germs, and grime, bacteria are going to enter your body. You've got a slow healing cut. You or someone in your family, a diabetic ulcer, pressure sores, all of those can be incredibly challenging to manage, and they will impact your daily quality of life. It may not seem like right now, might be a slight annoyance, but my aunt developed a chronic wound on her leg. She went to the hospital to have it treated. They were just managing the care. They weren't trying to make the wound go away. They were just trying to make it not get any worse. While she was there, she contracted MRSA. Odd, when she was in the big place and had an open wound with all the sick people, she got more sick. Ended up with some amputations because of it. So that's why I want you to talk to my friends, Wound Care Associates of Colorado. They're expert wound care professionals, and here's the game changer: come to your home. No finding transportation, no taking time out of your day to go to a doctor's office, sitting there and waiting, hoping they're on time and that they don't make you late for the rest of the day. On your schedule, on your calendar, the compassionate nurses, the professionals from Wound Care Associates of Colorado come to your home and treat you in the privacy of your own home. It's comprehensive, compassionate care. They will assess your wound. They'll develop a personalized treatment plan that is just for you. And the best thing is, they'll give you the necessary care to heal your wound. My experience was that the professionals weren't trying to heal. People in my family weren't trying to heal those wounds. They were just trying to manage the wound. That's not getting you better. That doesn't get you back to doing what you should be doing. That's why you need to reach out to my friends with Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Receive expert care in the comfort and privacy of your own home. They offer personalized treatment, tailored care plans that will address your specific needs, and it's improved healing outcomes because they want to fix it, not maintain it. You don't go to the doctor and get a broken arm and they say, well, we'll just maintain this for a while. No, you fix it. That's how you do it right. Wound Care Associates of Colorado, do it right. Reach out to them. If you or a loved one is struggling with a chronic wound, visit coloradowound.com for more information and to schedule your in-home visit today. coloradowound.com. And when you do reach out to them, tell them you heard about him here on the Jeff and Bill Show. We really appreciate it. We'll be right back with more coverage of RFK Jr.'s Senate confirmation hearing on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're carrying the committee hearing, the Senate committee hearing of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. live. Let's go back to it.
5 years. For example, you have previously falsely suggested that the polio vaccine killed many, 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 many more people than polio ever did.
This is
by
Maggie
causing
Hansen,
fatal
Democrat
cancers,
from New
while
Hampshire.
rigorous safety studies show that to be completely false. Now, let's go to something we agree upon. I am really heartened to see that one area where we agree on is on women's reproductive freedom. In your own words, it's not the government's place to tell people what to do with their bodies. You said that, correct? Yeah. Mr. Kennedy, in 2023, you came to New Hampshire and said, quote, I'm pro-choice. I don't think the government has any business telling people what they can or cannot do with their body. So you said that, right?
Yes.
Yep. But you also said we need to trust the women to make that choice because I don't trust government to make any choices. You said that too, right?
Yes.
It is remarkable that you have such a long record of fighting for women's reproductive freedom, and really great that my Republican colleagues are so open to voting for a pro-choice HHS secretary. So, Mr. Kennedy, I'm confused. You have clearly stated in the past that bodily autonomy is one of your core values. The question is, do you stand for that value or not? When was it that you decided to sell out the values you've had your whole life in order to be given power by President Trump?
Senator, I agree with President Trump that every abortion is a tragedy, that we can't be a moral authority in this country.
Right. So, but that isn't what you said back in New Hampshire in 2023. My question is exactly when did you decide to sell out your life's work and values to get this position?
Senator, I agree with President Trump that every abortion is a tragedy.
So what you're telling us, just to be clear, because my time is limited, is that regardless of what you believe, regardless of what values you have, if President Trump tells you to do something, you're going to do it. You said just now the discussion about mifepristone. Oh, he's asked me to study the safety of it. Here are the safety studies that tell us mifepristone is safe and effective. And I asked Mr. Chair that these about 40 studies be admitted to the record by unanimous consent.
Without objection.
So the studies are there. The safety is proved. The science is there. But what you're telling us is if President Trump orders you to take action to make it harder for women to get direly needed health care, you'll follow his order. If Mr. Trump, as he did yesterday, orders a halt on Medicaid payments that are essential for taking care of people with disabilities all around this country, you're going to follow that order because you are willing to sacrifice your values, your knowledge, if President Trump tells you to do that. That, to me, is unacceptable in a Secretary of Health and Human Services.
As I explained before, the White House has issued a statement saying that that policy will not deprive any American
Yeah,
benefits.
the problem is the White House issued that statement only after we pointed out the damage it would do, and it became politically uncomfortable for them. You know what else that freeze on federal funding did? It halted funds for critical research that could cure pediatric cancer. So if the president tells you to do that, you're going to stop that too. That's enough.
Thank you. Senator Cortez Masto is next.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, thank you for coming into my office and having the conversation that we did. I appreciate your passion and your belief, and you've spent years really talking about the issues that matter to you, and I appreciate that. Let me ask you a couple of questions, though I just need some clarification. Right now, there's a 40-year-old law that requires hospital ERs accepting payment from Medicare to actually provide emergency care to patients. So let's say a woman experiencing a life-threatening condition like a heart attack goes to the ER. As a lawyer, you would agree that that federal law protects her right to emergency care, correct?
Democrat Senator Catherine Cortez.
So now a pregnant woman with life-threatening bleeding from an incomplete miscarriage goes to the ER. Let me rephrase that so you can hear. A pregnant woman with a life-threatening bleeding from an incomplete miscarriage goes to the ER, and her doctor also determines that she needs an emergency abortion. But she's in a state where abortion is banned. You would agree also as an attorney that federal law protects her right to that emergency care, correct?
I don't know. I mean, the answer to that is I don't know. If the state
Well, let me ask you this as an attorney. Doesn't federal law preempt state law?
The federal Constitution does. Sometimes not every federal law preempts state laws. It could be unconstitutional. Now, I'm not trying to be evasive,
let me ask you
Senator. I'm
this.
just telling you I don't know the
I
answer to
appreciate that.
question.
But what authority do you have over this as the director of HHS?
What authority do I have?
Yeah, to enforce the law.
In what regards?
To make sure that a hospital that receives payment from Medicare is ensuring that they're providing the necessary emergency care to patients when they present. It's actually the EMTALA law. So what authority as HHS director do you have with respect to EMTALA?
My understanding is that I have budgetary power and that it's pretty much limited to that. But if you tell me I have another authority, I don't even think that.
Well, let me tell you,
we have
you
a
do.
law enforcement branch at HHS.
Actually, you do, and that's CMS. CMS actually investigates complaints of EMTALA violations, as well as the Health and Human Services
armed
Inspector
HHS
General,
cops.
who, by the way, was just recently fired by Donald Trump. So you will be enforcing EMTALA laws, and it's important that you understand their impact and don't play politics with the patient presenting at the ER based on a position that this administration has taken. Let me ask you another question. When we met in my office, you said about lowering drug prices, that when Big Pharma price gouges, the American people suffer. I think we both agree on that. And I think you're sincere in your belief that you want to reduce prices for Americans, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. The Inflation Reduction Act empowered Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices. It penalizes drug companies for price hikes above inflation, and it caps seniors' out-of-pocket drug costs, along with reducing insulin prices to $35 per month. But your future boss, Donald Trump, on his first day in office, revoked President Biden's executive order that actually directed the health secretary to examine ways to reduce drug prices and improve access to innovative therapies for the American people. And unfortunately, Republicans in Congress want to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, which means reversing all of those things that we worked on to lower prices for Americans. So my question to you is, what do you do? Why are you there? Are you there to be a rubber stamp to this administration and cave into all of these positions that they're taking, even though you know they're in disagreement with your positions on lowering drug prices and that they could harm Americans? How do you handle that as HHS director?
Senator, my understanding is that the White House issued an executive order, I believe today, supporting the drug negotiations under the IRA. President Trump was very aggressive during his first term about negotiating drug prices. He has instructed me, and I've met with him repeatedly on as that we need lower prices than seniors in this country, and
so let me ask you. Let me ask you this, because I only have so much time. So we've already negotiated lowering prices for 10 drugs with Big Pharma, and Big Pharma, by the way, opposes this. They have not only are asking for a pause, they have filed lawsuits, but we've already negotiated the first 10 drugs. And we want to expand it to the next 10 to 15 that the Biden administration has put forward. Would you agree and continue that path of really mandating that Big Pharma come to the table and negotiate drug prices for Medicare so we can lower those prices for Americans?
My understanding is that the executive order that was issued today, which I haven't seen, but I've read a summary.
Well, let me ask you this then, because you keep citing the Trump administration and you're just going to follow what they say. Is that what you're doing? You're just a rubber stamp for them in this position? So anybody,
Trump.
so it doesn't matter that you're before us. It could be anybody coming before us as long as they're a rubber stamp for this administration and disregarding your beliefs and what you think. I guess my question to you is, if it really is fundamental to what you believe, how do you live with that? How do you address those issues as you're moving forward? Knowing that it's going to harm Americans. Yeah.
You want me to answer the question?
No, I'm asking you.
Okay. President Trump has asked me to end the chronic disease epidemic and make America healthy again. And
So is that the only reason why you're at HHS? Is that the only reason why then you're at the HHS, to address that one issue?
President Trump has asked me because I'm in a unique position to end that. And that is what I'm doing. And if we don't solve that problem, Senator, all of the other disputes we have about who's paying, and whether it's insurance companies, whether it's providers, whether it's HMOs, whether it's patients or families, all of those are moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. Our ship is sinking. Our 60% increase in Medicaid over the past 4 years is the biggest budget line now, and it's growing faster than any other. And no other nation in the world has what we have here. No other nation has a chronic disease. We have the highest chronic disease burden of any country in the world. We had, during COVID, we had 16% of the COVID deaths in a country. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. We had a higher death count than any country in the world. And when CDC was asked why, they said it's because Americans are the sickest people on earth. The average person who died from COVID, American, had 3.8 chronic diseases. This is an existential threat economically, to our military, to our health, to our sense of well-being. And it is a priority for President Trump. And that's why he asked me to run the agency. And if I'm privileged to be confirmed, that's exactly what I'll do.
Senator Barrasso.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kennedy, thank you for taking time to visit with me in my office prior to today's hearing to talk about a lot of the important issues affecting healthcare in my home state of Wyoming, as well as the nation. I appreciate your willingness to serve
We'll
our country.
continue to cover this.
During our
Now,
meeting,
John
we discussed
Brasso, Republican from Wyoming, is going to be asking some questions. But I want to tell you briefly about my friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. The last couple of years have taught us one thing this new year. It's to value the things we can control, and advancing and addressing hair loss is no exception. Our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration can reverse years, even decades of hair loss with their simple one-day treatment. Your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day, and your new hair is backed by the Advanced Hair Guarantee. It works for bald spots, receding hairlines, thinning hair, men, women, younger, wiser. Advanced Hair can address many different patterns of hair loss. Advanced Hair's top-rated physicians, like Dr. Tanya Pauls, have changed tens of thousands of people's lives, and now it's your turn. Schedule a free consultation by calling 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR. And to celebrate this new year, get special financing, 250 free hair grafts, and $250 off. Value the things you can't control and start regrowing your own natural hair today. That's 720-459-HAIR, or become inspired with before and after pictures at advancedhair.com. We'll continue with live updates from Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Senate confirmation hearing. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. We'll go back to the Senate, where there is a live confirmation hearing of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for HHS Secretary.
Here's somebody from the left, somebody I don't agree with.
This is Ron
many issues
Johnson,
politically,
Republican from Wisconsin.
coming together with President Trump and focusing on an area of agreement, something that the American people desperately want. Finding out the answers. What has caused autism? What is causing chronic illness? Ms. Kennedy, I think I've come to know what's in your heart. I think I know the personal and political price you've paid for this decision. I want to say publicly, I thank you for that. I truly appreciate what you're doing here. Can't we come together as a nation and do this? Can we do? Aren't you getting tired of this? I'm getting tired of this. So again, Ms. Kennedy, I need to enter in the record. These are just 11 letters of support signed by 63,000 people, thousands of doctors. From the American Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, Independent Medical Alliance, the North Carolina Physicians and Freedom Group, Governor Jeff Landry from Louisiana. These are Americans, nonpartisan. A lot of these people I know because I've advocated with you. A lot of them are Democrats. They put their political differences aside. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter this in the record.
Without objection.
I also do want to, Mr. Kennedy, as long as I have you here, I've written over 70 oversight letters to the federal health agencies under the Biden administration. I've virtually gotten squat out of them, okay? What I get is we get, for example, 50 pages of Anthony Fauci's emails redacted. Oh, by the way, the latest one was 17 pages. Instead of issuing a health alert on the myocarditis they knew was impacting young men early in 2021, instead of issuing an alert on the Health Alert Network, they developed 17 pages of talking points. This was given to the public under a FOIA request. They had to go to court. They've got a new way of redacting. They don't black things out. They just give you white pages, so you don't even know what they have redacted. So again, I've issued a subpoena now to cover the information I've requested in 70 oversight letters. My question to you is, as Secretary of HHS, will you honor these requests from Congress, and will you make HHS transparent?
Yeah, my approach to HHS, as I said before, Senator, is radical transparency. Democrats and Republicans ought to be able to come in and get information that was generated at taxpayer expense, that is owned by the American taxpayer. They shouldn't get redacted documents. Public health agencies should be transparent. And if we want Americans to restore trust in the public health agencies, we need transparency. I want to say something about what you first said. When I launched my campaign, it was about uniting Americans, Democrats and Republicans. There's no issue that should unite us more than this chronic health epidemic. There's no such thing as Republican children or Democratic children. These are our kids. 66% of them are damaged. I know what a healthy kid looks like because I had so many of them in my family. I didn't know anybody with a food allergy growing up, peanut allergy. Why do 5 of my kids have allergies? Why are we seeing these explosions in diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, neurological diseases, depression, all of these things that are related to toxics in the environment? Why can't we just agree with each other to put differences about so many issues, intractable issues aside, and say, we're going to end this? I don't think anybody is going to be able to do this like I have because of my peculiar experience because I've litigated against these agencies. When you litigate against them, you get a PhD in corporate capture and how to unravel it. I've written 6 books about these agencies.
All right, stick around with
I know a lot
710
about them.
KNUS as future shows continue to cover the RFK Jr. live committee hearing. This is going to be a big one today. And then tomorrow's Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.